Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another marvelous edition of the best darn show on the internet, the Sharon Show.
Indeed.
Welcome, everybody. We're back again to cover a couple of verses from the Tao Te Ching. And as we always do, I'm going to open up with a quote. And
Well, before you do, this is
oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oversharon 133,
Oh, yes.
and this is our 33rd installment of the commentary to the Tao. So it's kind of funny, and we didn't plan this.
We did not plan this at all. It's funny. We actually just noticed today as we were about to record, Sharon noticed, actually. Very astute. So it's all about 33s today. And since we're recording this ahead of time, let's see. So it's going to be the 21st when it comes out, which is
Which is a three.
So that's pretty cool. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, wow. Oh, hello, Kitty. Nope, sorry.
Hello, Kitty.
Hang out with me, though. All right. She
Hello,
wanted to.
Kitty.
You want to talk? Here, hang on, Snickers. Go ahead. Talk to everybody. Oops. She was talking.
Is that Snickers?
Yeah, she's so cute. She wanted to. I'm
Snickers
gonna
the
have to.
kitty.
She wants to hang out near me, so I could just. Anyway, we're podcasting, everybody. How's it going?
And you're in a new room
Yeah, I'm actually. So when I would podcast before, it was up there because
directly
this is
above you.
a loft. So I just got my stand-up desk and everything in here. So it's been easier for me because I could stand now because I'm standing, and I could sit if I want. This little fancy chair I got. I just go like this.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, new things coming here to the Oversharing Show. It's going to be cool. Also, I got a better workstation here, so it's easier for me to like take notes and all those fun things. So yeah,
Fun stuff.
let me
Well,
pull up the quote for our 133rd episode with 33rd installment of the Tao. All our threes. All right, so today's quote: great power is worry, and total power is boredom, such that even God renounces it and pretends instead that he is people and fish and insects and plants. The myth of the king who goes wandering among his subjects in disguise. And that's by Alan Watts. And Snickers is back on the desk. What's up, honey? Maybe she'll just go to sleep right here. That's a good spot for you.
That's funny.
I really like this quote though, because we talk about this all the time, how we possibly could be God. This is just a way to look at it differently, right? In the reverse way. Because instead of us making claims that we are God, it's like, well, maybe God is just bored, right? And broke himself into all these little pieces of consciousness to experience it. It's a very interesting
mind
concept.
of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we are all in the mind of God. And that's why everything is like, I don't know, what would you call it? Like
Well, everything is like mental
ethereal.
and everything's
Yeah, it's mental.
and
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
People so much think this is a physical realm. I was talking to Elizabeth about what were we talking about exactly? Oh, different, like germ theory and terrain theory and German new medicine and all these things. And I was like, a lot of these theories are based on us being in a physical realm, which we're not in a physical realm. That's why a diet, for example, or healthcare or whatever it is, the same. It doesn't work. The same thing doesn't always work for the same person, right? It's just like what we talk about all the time here, as far as cosmology. And I feel like
There's
that's
no
why,
collective
because
solution.
really, right? There's no collective solution. The reason is because we are one of the reasons anyway. We're in this realm, or however you want to call it, and we're energy. So things don't actually behave as they would in a normal Newtonian universe or whatever, because that's not what we are. We just have this. I think that's like man's best attempt to explain things. As far, well, not all men, but the materialists, I'll say, at least it's their best way to explain things. So I guess you could say you can observe how things work and say that, oh yeah, it seems that they work along these lines, but it doesn't always fit in those parameters. And I think that's why everything is different for everybody. But the bottom of the quote too. Let's see where he says, yes, the myth of the king who goes wandering among his subjects in disguise. And that's a really cool story. I've seen it like it's in Dune actually later in the books.
How was
Um,
it?
Paul Atreides, when he's the emperor, he'll go running around. What are you eating right now, Cat? He'll go running around. Just he'll put like a still suit on and walk around Arakeen, which is the capital city, uh, just
And
like
no
a
one will
normal
recognize
person,
them.
right? To see what it's like, and you see it in other movies too. People do that. Rulers do it. And if you think of God being that way, it's really cool because then you never know who you're talking to or who you're interacting with. It could be God. And what if they're all pieces of God, right? And that helps us, I think, with the golden rule too. It helps us apply it better if we have that frame of mind.
Yeah, I think there's a saying in Christianity about like entertaining angels, like don't ever be, I don't know what I forgot how it goes, but it's kind of like always be ready and prepared because you could be entertaining angels. Like you could come across an angel on your path and you have no idea.
Mm-hmm. And it's similar to what I've heard about Hinduism, where they treat most guests as if they're
Mhm.
God. You know, somebody comes, it's
Yes.
a,
Yes.
or they used to anyway. My information's
Yes.
old. It's from Ram Dass lectures from the 70s or whatever it could be. But that's the tradition anyway. And I like it because not only can you look at our modern traditions, kind of like the way we treat guests and we are nice to them and we kind of give them privileges or whatever, you could take that back and see how maybe it started with this whole idea of, hey, everyone's God, you know, and while they're at your house, it's your chance to treat them like God. And when you're at their house, they could treat you like God or whatever kind of thing.
Yeah. And not because they will do it for you if you do that for them, but just because you
Yes,
just
yeah.
do it.
Yeah, just because it's the right thing, right? That's yeah. That's why we because it makes you feel better, I guess you could say, right? Or whatever. It just feels like, or it's a more harmonious way, I guess you could say. But that's true though, because people will get stuck in covert contracts or they just have an expectation of, you know, if I do this, they're going to do that. And if there's no agreement ahead of time and the other person doesn't know about this contingency, that could lead to a lot of trouble down the line, especially in relationships and stuff, any kind of relationship. But yeah, I was looking at quotes earlier for Alan Watts about the Tao, and this one really stuck with me. It's simple. So
Yeah, I like it. Well, I pulled a card from the I Ching deck, Visionary I Ching cards, and I pulled a number 54, which is called Careful Affection. And it says thunder above and lake below.
there we go. Everyone can see it now. Oh wow, I like that.
I will read from the book. It says, affection is an important part of intimate relationships, but it must be handled carefully to be both satisfying and supportive of each person's self-respect. For instance, a married person's secret lover would have the conflicted feelings of affection coupled with insecurity. Relationships that are based on personal attraction, especially those that are unconventional, require special attention and a cautious measure of tactful reserve. To overcome challenges and achieve longevity in a relationship, you need to remain mindful of extreme feelings of attraction, as well as the transitory nature of most relationships. It is an irony of life that the happiest people are those who have what they want and who want what they have. It is easy to make disastrous mistakes when you venture outside the bounds of propriety. If you assert yourself too much or try to make yourself indispensable, you will invite misfortune. If you are in doubt as to whether you should follow your heart or your head, allow some time to pass and perhaps the answer will become clear. Boldly asserting yourself right now could bring misfortune. So do not attempt to be overly creative or to attract much favorable attention. At the same time, allowing yourself to drift aimlessly can be a mistake. Find balance in a middle way. Hmm, that's interesting.
Interesting indeed. Let me bring it back out. Yeah, all about the middle way, right?
Middle way, yeah, but in interesting kinds of relationships. Well, I should say, uh, relationships that are, what did he call them? In unconventional. I mean, they're pretty conventional sometimes with people,
Yeah,
but
what's even an unconventional relationship these days, right? I'm dating my fish. No. All right.
don't tell the fish that
Don't
you have a wife. Okay. Don't.
don't ruin it.
Oh, God.
All right.
Well, there you go. That's some insight from the I Ching to whoever that was for. God bless you. God help
God
you.
bless you. Yeah. I think it's always I mean anything, any kind of you like basically a poll, or you can even open to any page in like a tarot book or whatever, and you could get something out of it, I'm sure, or it could apply to your life somehow. I think that's why
Yeah.
um tarot that's why it kind of always seems to apply when you're reading. People are like, wow, this is like nailing it. And if you're open minded enough, there's probably something in there that could apply either way. So
Yeah. I mean, it could be like someone considering something, unconventional. And it's kind of like a warning, a heads up.
yeah, that's true too. You never know. All right. So what else is going on? I don't know if you
um,
wanted to talk.
well,
You kind of talked about in that you were doing your own version of the Tao, and you sent me the
yeah.
first verse, and I really love it in your breakdown and your commentary. I don't know if you wanted to talk
Do
about
you
anything
want
about
to
that,
post? Do you
or
want to share it?
yeah,
I
we
hope
could do that
people.
for sure. Um, do you want to share it? Do you have it, or I'd have to email it to
No,
myself.
I don't have it in front of me. But do you want me to pull it up? I can
Sure.
open it up.
Yeah, I think it's a
Did
good
I?
idea.
I threw it away. I
I'll
I
take
mean,
the
like,
time.
because it was a PDF, I didn't
Yeah,
like save it, but it's in Telegram somewhere.
I'll just take the time to give a shout out to our chat. What's going on, everybody? Make sure you hit thumbs up, comment if you have any questions, subscribe. More laws, more problems.com is the website. Click on the oversharing tab, and there's plenty of ways to find us there. So yeah, we premiere or go live every Thursday. So look for us. This next Thursday is going to be Thanksgiving here in the good old United States. So we're taking that day off, but never fear, we will be back the week after. You could just use the time to catch up. We have so many episodes. We've been podcasting now for over 3 years. So go check out some of the old ones. You can have a little overshare and watch party on Thanksgiving all by yourself.
That is, unless you're spending time with friends and family, and
Yeah.
that's also good. Let's see. Let me bring this up. So, I preface all this by saying that this is like totally a first draft, and it might change, it might stay the same. I don't know. Um, all right. So the verse one, this is like the poetic part. I put these things together, and then on the side, I decided to kind of I asked myself, what was Lao Tzu really trying to say? Or at least, what do I think he was trying to say to me? So last week I read this part, and um, on this side, I give like an explanation, and I kind of entitled it something that was relevant to what that little stanza is about. So I'll just read through what I wrote. So for the first piece, the poetic stanza, the first part, I entitled that "What is the Tao?" And I wrote, "God cannot be encompassed nor contained in time or space. No one word, image, or symbol can represent the totality of God. Some descriptions are helpful: the divine source of all, the creator, the mind of God, the way, the truth. Yet none of these say it all. Even the path to God cannot be dictated to the collective, for it can be approached from many directions, and each individual goes his own way." And then that second poetic stanza I entitled "Creation." That which is unnameable is the masculine principle. It represents the Father and many other ideas, such as heaven, source, the origin, the beginning, imagination, light, and spirit, the ethereal. And I quote Genesis 1:2, where it says, "without form and void." That which is named and expressed by the spoken word, frequency, and vibration is the feminine principle. It represents the mother of all creation and other ideas like earth, the womb, darkness, and manifestation. Think of imagination as light penetrating the darkness and expressing itself. "Let there be light" in the darkness of the womb showcases that creative principle. And that is found in Genesis 1:2-3, if you read that. The next little piece I entitled "How to Know the Tao." The Tao is mysterious and subtle, like a secret. It is true spiritual freedom and the experience of being in the flow state. To know the Tao requires a peaceful mind, free of passion, desires, and attachment. Alternatively, a busy mind, the ego, is bound to the material world. And then the last piece of the verse I entitled "Non-Duality." Although it seems paradoxical, we are in unity with God. The body showcases this principle. Though the body is made of flesh, material, it encapsulates the spirit, and they are as one. Another useful analogy is that of being the entire ocean in one drop. That's from a Rumi quote. We are not separate from God. God is found deep within each of us. And I saw that from Ramana Maharshi. So I don't know like how to quote that, but that's where I got that from. And then I wrote, "We are also found in God, as seen in the analogy of an author, where we are as characters, personalities, or aspects in the mind of God." So there you can see what we were talking about earlier, with these like "you are in the mind of God" type concepts and ideas.
Perfect. Goes along right with our quote. And great job, by the way.
Thanks.
It's going to be an amazing, or it is an amazing undertaking. It's going to be fun, though.
Yeah.
Sure, it is
Yeah,
fun.
I don't it's I'm like, this is gonna be a quite an undertaking, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess we could get into our breaking down of our verses today and see what Lao Tzu has in store for us today. All right. Let's see here. I'll bring it up. All right. Verse 62. Now, if you're new to our breakdown of the Tao, we break down four different versions. We read them each. We read each one first, and then we go back and kind of break them down section by section. So the first one is by Stephen Mitchell from 1988. The Tao is the center of the universe, the good man's treasure, the bad man's refuge. Honors can be bought with fine words, respect can be won with good deeds.
Are you
But the,
sharing your screen? I can't.
oh, am I not? Oh, yeah, I think I am. You don't see it?
Well, maybe it's because, oh, you know what? The app changed. So now it, okay.
Yeah, the app
Yes.
changed.
I hit something and I'm like, why can't I see the screen?
Where
Sorry.
did it go?
Head.
No, no worries. But the Tao is beyond all value, and no one can achieve it. Thus, when a new leader is chosen, don't offer to help him with your wealth or your expertise. Offer instead to teach him about the Tao. Hey, Mr. Donald Trump, come here. I got a boy. Why did ancient masters esteem the Tao? Because being one with the Tao, when you seek, you find. And when you make a mistake, you are forgiven. That is why everybody loves it.
Dwight Goddard. The practice of Tao. The Tao is the asylum of all things, the good man's treasure, the bad man's last resort. With beautiful words, one may sell goods, but in winning people, one can accomplish more by kindness. Why should a man be thrown away for his evil? To conserve him was the emperor appointed and the three ministers. Better than being in the presence of the emperor and riding with 4 horses is sitting and explaining this Tao. The reason the ancients esteemed Tao was because if sought, it was obtained, and because by it he that hath sin could be saved. Is it not so? Therefore, the world honors Tao. I can't wait to break this down.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. He Dwight Goddard gets all mystical on us really
He
quick.
gets all Christian and Jesus on you right there.
Yeah, that too. What are you doing? All right, Stan Rosenthal from 1984. He entitles this verse "Sharing the Treasure." Oversharing the treasure. The source of all things is in the Tao. It is a treasure for the good and a refuge for all in need. Whilst praise can buy titles, good deeds gain respect, no man should be abandoned because he has not found the Tao. On auspicious occasions, when gifts are sent, rather than sending horses or jade, send the teachings of the Tao. Oh, there we go. See, that's what I got you for your birthday. It was the Tao. I got you. Go watch my podcast. Happy birthday. When we first discover the natural way, we are happy to know that our misdeeds are in the past, where they belong, and so are happy to realize that we have found a treasure. Oh, I like that. Nice.
Aleister Crowley, The
Crowley.
Workings of the Tao. The Tao is the most exalted of all things. It is the ornament of the good and the protection and purification of the evil. Its words are the fountain of honor, and its deeds the engine of achievement. It is present even in evil. Dare we say?
How dare
How
you?
dare you? Though the Son of Heaven were enthroned with his 3 dukes appointed to serve him, and he were offered a round symbol of rank as great as might fill the hands with a team of horses to follow,
Whoa.
this gift were not to be matched against the Tao, which might be offered by the humblest of men. Why did they of old time set such store by the Tao? Because he that sought it might find it, and because it was the purification from all evil. Therefore did all men under heaven esteem it the most exalted of all things. Wow.
Boom. Wow. I get like
Goosebumps?
yeah, that too. But I was just talking to Elizabeth about a parable in the Bible. She's not as familiar as with a lot of the Bible stuff as we are because of our upbringings, you and us, you and me, Sharon. So she was talking about um a ritual that she did and stuff, and like for the full moon, and she changed around some things and did like a little offering of water. And she was saying how some people offer more. And so I was talking about, water is one of the elements. I'm like, that's a great offering. And also, I told her the story about, or the parable about the rich man who gave a bunch of money. It was like donated to the temple. And then the
Mhm.
poor lady who only gave like, she had like 5 pennies and she gave like four or something like that.
She gave him, I mean, it doesn't say, but it says she gave all she had,
Oh, she gave all
basically.
she had. Yeah.
I mean, that's the idea. Yeah.
And that was the greater gift because she gave all she had, even though it was only like a little bit of money. So I think that's kind of, well, I guess we could use when we break down the Aleister part.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. For sure. That's a great example.
it's right in there though. All right. Well, speaking of breaking it down, let's get back up to the top here. We could do, I guess, two piece by two piece.
Sure.
All right. So the Tao is the center of the universe, the good man's treasure, the bad man's refuge. So for me, I like this because it's all about victim and victor status to me, right? So for the good man, it's his treasure. The bad man, it's his refuge. So for the bad man, it's his excuse. I couldn't help it. It's what happened. It's like because of what the Tao does, what goes around comes around kind of thing, and karma, right? So a lot of people look at that as just a bad luck. They don't realize that they're causing their own problems. So I would say it's not even like a bad man or woman, but you could just say somebody who's not following their dharma, right? It for them
Or
it's
the Tao.
or the
Mhm.
Tao, yeah.
Mhm.
And then for somebody who is, it's their refuge, and then they're the victor. They could say, I'm just following the plan, right? The Tao is the plan. This is great. And then for other people, to reiterate, it's going to screw them over in different ways, and they're going to be all mad about it, and that's going to be their victim status is their Tao. They could blame whatever happens. So I like
It
that.
reminds me of when people like, and it's mostly, I guess, Christians who probably say this, but when they say things like, oh, well, you know, atheists don't believe in God, but when they're in a pickle, they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's no atheists on a, what do they say? There's no atheists on a sinking ship or something like that. Somebody
Yeah,
in the chat
something,
will
yeah.
probably get it. Yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
Nothing against atheists. I mean, everybody's got their views and that's where they're at.
Yeah, totally.
We're right here and they're right there and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Good point, though. All right. Second part of this voice
Voice.
honors can be bought with fine words. Respect can be won with good deeds, but the Tao is beyond all value, and no one can achieve it. So that kind of reminds me of, well, a common theme. The beginning of it is kind of like a physical universe, right? Like you can get all these things if you want, but to achieve the Tao, it can't be done. It's just a practice, right? You have to. Uh, I guess because if you said you were achieving the Tao, then you'd already be
You'd
perfect.
be lying to yourself.
Yeah, well, you know, that too. So that's kind of what I'm getting out of that, though. What do
Um,
you think?
honors can be bought with fine words. It's also yeah, yeah, I don't know, accolades and stuff like yeah, whatever.
And what
Yeah,
are honors really like if you have to talk somebody into it or give or bribe them, basically, is what you're doing, right?
yeah.
It's
It is still in the material world. Yeah.
for
Yep.
shizzle.
And I guess the Tao's beyond all value, no one can achieve it. It probably means like no one can like have all that value. It's because like just like we talked about the Tao is like ineffable. It's like you can't explain it, you can't define it, you can't wrap your thoughts around it,
And
can't fit it into a box.
there's no way to like buy a membership into it, or there's no way to figure it out with your mind. You have to use
Yeah.
your heart. So for us here in the Western world, everybody wants it now. If I want it yesterday, like I want to achieve this. I want to already be the thing.
Yeah.
So that really goes with that. It's like because you can't be the thing. You can't just
Ooh, that reminds me of like, okay, so it's like being bought with fine words and good deeds and all this stuff. It reminds me of people giving like like when you get an award or something and you get some sort of certificate or whatever, like no one can achieve it. Like you can't get some achievement award for it or some like certificate. Like I did the Tao, I know the Tao, I have the Tao, whatever. Like
Exactly.
you can't do that.
That's like right hand path stuff, kind of. And this, I
Yeah.
think, is like saying like the Tao is like a left hand path. You got to just kind of figure it out. That's why there's no rules. Tao
Mm.
Association of America. No, I'm just kidding. But that is the funny thing when people, and I, not to disparage anybody, but when they try to create kind of a religion out of Taoism.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's cool to have like a Taoist group in or order to study the Tao or whatever. But once you
Yeah.
start laying down rules, and it's like,
Hmm.
I think,
Hmm. I think
but if it helps them, we're
you're cultifying.
yes, cultive. That's a good one.
I just
We
made
should
that.
add that to the Urban Dictionary. Cultifying. It's like it's when a really cool group or good idea starts to like cement in place and make hardcore rules and use the same words, and they're cultifying. We got another one.
Are we cultifying the Oversharon show?
I hope so. No. Yeah, we already have an episode, everybody, where you can look. It's for the people in the future where we tell them not to worship us.
It's
Anyway,
the top 10 Oversharon tenets. It's a part one and part two series.
that's right. Do not worship us. Um,
Dwight Goddard?
yeah, we'll do that. I was just looking to see if there's anything else, but the Tao is
Oh,
beyond all value and no one can achieve it. Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said. There's no achievement, right? You can
award.
only
Yeah.
be it, right? All right.
All right, so Dwight Goddard entitles this The Practice of Tao. The Tao is the asylum of all things, the good man's treasure, the bad man's last resort. I like that better
Yeah,
because the Tao is the asylum. It's like Stephen Mitchell's The Bad Man's Refuge, but it's not quite enough to say refuge. It's like the la the last resort makes a lot more sense. Like, oh, okay, fine then. I guess maybe there's something to this in
exactly.
here.
Right. Last resort. Do it till you're done.
Yes.
It has
Yes.
that
Oh my
flavor of
God.
to it, right?
Yes. Good
Yeah.
point. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with doing it till you're done and having the Tao as your last resort. Don't we all? Like we all come through a dark night of the soul to get to quote the Tao, right?
Yeah.
So then we can be the good man and we find the treasure in the Tao. Otherwise, we're blind to it, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So the next piece. With beautiful words, one may sell goods, but in winning people, one can accomplish more by kindness. Why should a man be thrown away for his evil? I love this.
Why
So,
indeed.
with beautiful words, one may sell goods. Okay, this reminds me of, and we don't have to share for now, but it reminds me of marketing,
Yeah.
business marketing,
Yeah.
using beautiful words to sell goods because sometimes the goods aren't good and you're still going to use beautiful words and beautiful imagery and beautiful symbology and you're going to try to sell that thing whatever it is. um but in winning people one can accomplish more by kindness, so instead of lying to them, be kind to them. I guess that's what I'm getting out of this. What are you getting out of that?
Yeah. I mean, you're exactly dead on, right? We were talking about somebody we know. I won't mention name, not us, but anyway, this was talking about we were talking about food and diet, and it was like an older person. They're like, oh, I eat Cheerios, right? Eating Cheerios every day. It's like the best thing. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you just fell for a marketing scheme. That's really what it was. Like, are Cheerios good for you? I don't know. I'm not going to make claims here on
We're
YouTube, but
living in a material in this material world that's not really material.
yeah, exactly.
So
So, it's funny though, because it's just like a marketing scheme, right? And it also reminds you there's an episode of South Park where like things happen and they're like, is this a commercial? They can't tell. Like, is this real or is this a commercial? Like whatever happens to them, it's so funny. And that's
oh
kind of
my
how I feel with
gosh.
the internet when you're on there, you never know. Like, are they
Yeah,
trying to
with
sell me
videos these
something?
days with the AI, like do you even know what
Yeah,
things
that
are?
too. Yeah.
It's
Is
like,
that even a real
is it
person
true?
talking to you, right? Like it's creepy.
Yeah.
Um, but with the Dow, you don't have to worry about that, right?
The Tao is real. The Tao will tell you, tell it like it is. Well,
Yeah, with kindness. So
yeah, with
I think the whole
kindness.
thing, the thing too with the beautiful words versus kindness is it's kind of like you got to show me, right? Like Missouri, the show me state. It's like show me the money. Words in America, words are cheap. Police Academy. So it's show me, right? And it's funny because it reminds me of presidential races and politicians and stuff. Any politician, most of them, because they really just focus on what they say, and then whenever they get in office, it seems that they don't do it. So
Well, as funny as this sounds, the cult I grew up in, one of the things that was a kind of like a, what do you say, a saying that they would regularly say. And it was like, don't preach me a message, live me a message, like living by example. And like, it's funny because even they would preach the concept of like living a life as an example, like Jesus did. But the funny part is they didn't really do a good job.
because they were talking about it, right? And that's what it is. You could have went up to him and like, "Hey, preacher, you don't got to talk about this. Just
You gotta
do it."
preach to the choir. You
Yeah,
gotta preach to
exactly.
yourself.
Yeah, or to know you don't have to preach to anyone really. Your message is your action, right? So, and I think that's what the key to everything really, especially in this society, because it's always do as I say, not as I do, right? Then that's what starts a
Mm.
lot of the rift between parents and children because the parents are always like, don't do this. But then we see them doing it. It's like, don't drink
Yeah,
alcohol, but you guys are
yeah,
drinking. Don't smoke, but you're smoking. Like
yeah,
it must
yeah.
be pretty cool.
This is for big people. This is for adults only.
And
You can't do
children
this.
constantly want to be adults, right? So yeah, that's why I think is going to be one of the tricky things of being a parent. If that, but or just to be a parent in general, I'll just say it must be really tricky because if you want to
Yeah,
engage in certain indulgences that children can't, it's like, how do you do it
exactly.
in the open?
Yep.
Do you hide it?
Yeah. And the other thing too is like doing things like just buying an ice cream cone, for example. And let's say you buy one for yourself and you're trying to share it with them. They're like, no, I want my own. How come you can have your own, but I can't have my own? It's like, how do you how do you deal with that one?
Because I'm big, and then
Yeah.
that
And they're
causes all
like,
kinds of
well, I'm a human being too. I can be able to do whatever you can be able to do.
exactly.
Hmm. But anyway, there's that last line, which I love on there. Is there anything else you had to say about that?
No, I think we're good. But yeah, you're
All
right.
right. So, why should a man be thrown away for his evil? Wow. Like, to me, it's like compassion. It's like Jesus' compassion, too, Like, just because you've made mistakes or, quote, mistakes, or you've done things that are not good or whatever, like Jesus on the cross forgave the sinner, the criminal who asked, for his mercy, who was like be with me tonight or be save me or whatever he said. And Jesus was like, yeah, I'll see you in, you know,
Paradise
in paradise.
on the Oversharon
And
show.
it's like, why should a man be thrown away for his evil? The thing is, people can change, right?
It's
It's
often the
sometimes
most
it's
evil
very hard.
people that people call evil that flip around that become the best. People call them, because you understand that. Think about whistleblowers, right? Somebody that's in a corporation and maybe they were evil or whatever, then they have a change of heart and then they come out and they want to tell everybody about it. And they who knows it better than them because they used to do it.
Mhm.
Same thing with healing,
Jordan Maxwell.
yeah, all that stuff. Because if you
Not that what he was necessarily doing was evil. I don't know, but he
but yeah, he was
definitely
there.
like shared a lot of things that people didn't know at the time about the secret societies and whatnot stuff. Right?
Exactly.
Am I?
Him and Bill
Oh,
no,
yes.
I was gonna say
Cooper?
Bill Hicks, yeah, Bill Cooper, yeah.
Yeah,
But
that
also
too.
though, you could look at it that way, but you can also look at it like somebody who used like for us, for example, like used to be a preachy hardcore Christian or whatever. Now you
Yeah.
know that. Now you can help people who have a Christian background get into more of a spirituality that works for them, right? Or whatever you want to
Hmm.
call it, a cosmology.
Yeah.
So that's really what it is. And like Hannibal Lecter, right? He's a murderer, but then in Silence of the Lambs, Jodie Foster uses his knowledge to catch another murderer who's still out there. So it's the same kind of thing, even though Hannibal Lecter goes on to eat more people. I mean, spoiler,
Gross.
allegedly. So, but it's that same kind of that thing. So that's one point that I really like. And the other point too is he's only asking a question. He's not saying that evil people shouldn't be thrown away. He's just like, why should a man be thrown away for being evil? Why? If you come up with a good enough reason, I guess, then throw him away. But he's just saying,
He's
why should he?
asking a
Do you have
question.
a good point for, And
Is there
I
a
think
reason?
it's because of the redemption cycle, and also because of the kind of natural law karma thing we have going on in this universe.
Hmm. Yeah.
People
Like,
are going to get theirs. Like,
yeah, and who are you to say when that man's life is over or not, you know?
yeah, like Gandalf said to Frodo when he's like, we should kill Gollum. And he's like, many men, or what does he say? He's like, many men have the power to kill. Or no, he's like, anybody can kill. That's what he says. Anyone can take life, but not many have the power to give it. Do you, Frodo Baggins? Do you have the power to give life too? It's like, so how dare you take the life if you can't give the life also, I guess it's kind of what he's saying. So I
Mm,
like it though.
yeah.
And again, that doesn't mean we talk about a lot of this stuff and how it can be applied. Doesn't mean, in our point of view, or anyway, that you can't exercise self defense. Like if someone's attacking you or hurting you, you don't have to sit there and be like, "Oh, he's evil. He'll get better. I'll just sit around and wait around." What it really means is that if you do have to respond or react, it's just not coming from rage or a place of hate. It's more coming from a place of compassion. You're kind of just doing what you have to do. We've talked about this. We talked about that concept a lot, but just to reiterate a little bit in case someone's
Yeah.
new.
It reminds me not that I condone this or anything, but when people talk about like having to like spank their child or something and they tell them like this is hurting me more than it hurts you. And the kids are like, yeah, right, but if a parent truly is doing it for the right reasons with true compassion, it would hurt them to have to do that, right? Um, if, again, if it's okay to do something like that. And every to each his own. Like I can't comment. I don't have children.
And especially if it's a behavior that the child saw the adult doing and started to repeat, kind of like we were saying earlier, and the adult's like, no, you can't do this, you can't. So of
Yeah.
course it's going to hurt them even more because they're the reason that the child was doing that. So now they have to correct, they have to, or they're attempting to correct the behavior in a different way.
Yeah.
But it's still something they started. Now, of course, I'm sure there's children that just do things and it's not the parents' fault. I'm not trying to say,
Yeah, no, no,
who
no, not
knows?
all
We're
the time.
not giving parental advice here, but I'm just saying, as far as psychologically, it could affect the parent in that way and cause them greater pain because of that, even if they're not aware of it consciously,
Yeah.
subconsciously, they might be aware of it. So,
And everyone is going through their whatever they need to go through at that moment. So if they are for whatever reason needing to make the choice to spank their children, that's that's what they needed to go through this lifetime to experience what that's like, or to be on the receiving end, being a child that was spanked.
Yeah. Yep. And I don't know because again, I don't have children, so I don't know what it would be like. I can know that
Yeah.
I know I could tell you that I was spanked and hit a couple times, nothing crazy, but I had a couple friends, one of them in particular, where his dad would just like beat him, and he would come stay with us sometimes, and it was crazy, but just the effect you could see it have on people's lives. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a um and I know even just speaking from my own experience, when I got hit, I would always want to strike back out. Like as soon as I got hit, now I want to cause pain to the source of whatever's hitting me, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like a cycle of violence. And maybe it's because it is done out of anger. And maybe perhaps if it was not done out of anger and it was more of a, this is going to hurt me more than you kind of a spanking thing or whatever, maybe it would have been different. I
Right.
don't
It
know,
could be. Yeah, could
but
be
yeah, I guess we'll find out maybe.
someday.
Someday. All right, let's get back to the Dow. We're oversharing. We love to overshare. We're getting into like weedy area. We're like, this is how you should raise your kids and eat and believe. No, I'm just kidding. And this is how you should feed your kids. How dare you? All right. So I just, as long as you're feeding your kids, I'm happy. That's okay. So we're gonna go San Rosenthal, the first
Not
part.
force feeding them.
Yes, yeah. Feeding off the light. Sharing the treasure. The source of all things is in the Tao. It is a treasure for the good and a refuge for all in need. So now instead of bad or a negative, they just put it as in somebody in need. And I like that because you could see somebody as other people would perceive them as bad or somebody displaying negative or terrible
Mhm.
behavior. You could see them as somebody in need. They're in need of seeing the fucking bigger
Wisdom,
picture. Yeah, they're in need of a near death experience, I think, though. But yeah,
dark night of the soul.
because if you think they really only need a perspective, because that's really what shifts it. It's kind of like, it's I want to fit this in too because I brought it up again and I haven't brought this up in a while, but it's something we like to talk about. Free will. Does free will exist? I can't prove or tell you if your actions are determined because of what you think or because of everything that's ever happened to you. But one thing I could say with a lot of certainty is it's up to you to decide how you feel about what's going on around you. And that's really is the true will. And I think that's what it comes down to. Just like I was saying about the Stephen Mitchell verse with the victims versus the victors. It's the same kind of thing, right? How are you looking at this? Are you in need or do you see abundance everywhere around you? You know,
And if you feel something and you determine that based on how you feel, you're going to respond or react, then of course, I mean, if you feel something, what are you going to do about it? Right. And there you go. That's your will. Right.
mm-hmm.
Um,
And it definitely is a practice. We're not saying we're masters of it, everybody, but
yeah.
it's
But
a good
this
practice.
also goes to show, like, this part of the verse goes to show you that everyone is going to interpret this a little differently and use different words, right? So, Stephen Mitchell used a good man's treasure and bad man's refuge. And Stan Rosenthal chose to just say, for the good or those in need. And, you know, it's all perspective, right? It's like putting things into perspective. And everyone, all of this, like the Tao and how it works is like, it's not that it's relative, but it is based on perspective and how you see it and how you look at it. And it's not a bad thing, right? We can use so many different words, so many different um, views to showcase what it's about. And it's very cool.
Exactly. Many different angles. And it's funny, while you were talking, it reminded me of the whole Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky thing because when he was on the stand, he was like, "Did you have sexual relations or was?" And he's like, it depends on your definition of
Definition
is,
is,
right?"
yeah.
And that's exactly it. And that's why it really is, in a way, kind of all relative because it kind of has to do with everyone's point of view. Now, I'm sure everyone could get together most people decide what their point of view on marital cheating on your wife is. Everyone would be like, I don't know, man. I don't know about the definition it is, but that's probably not what you should be doing if you're married to another lady. But when it
That's
comes to
funny. Didn't
spiritual
we just
matters,
read the I Ching about that?
I
The I
think,
Ching card? That's funny. Go ahead.
oh yeah. So yeah, so I think, but when it comes to matters of spirituality, it's less tangible. So from the spiritual view, as we say, so like from the physical view, yeah, you could point to different truths and tenets and things that are true. And but from the spiritual view, it's a lot different because everybody has their own kind of perspective and point of view. And um who's to say who's
It,
wrong when you were talking about that stuff, and that's
yeah,
again why we try not to preach our message to people. We just break things down.
it sheds light on different, you know, views. So,
Yeah, there you go. Different angles.
all right,
And that's why we
nice.
use the different versions. All right, let me bring this up.
Yeah, it's been really helpful.
Whilst praise can buy titles, good deeds gain respect. So it's similar to what they were kind of saying before, but it was talking about, actions versus talking about doing things, right? No man should be abandoned because he has not found the Tao. Now, this is
Same
a
thing.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
same thing, but I think a cleaner way to put it, because you're not using the word evil. Now, I guess it just depends on who you're working with. Some people would be shocked if they read that. Like, what do you mean you don't do anything to an evil man, right? Maybe it's good for them to be shocked, though. But other people, you can share this version and you could just say, hey, if they're not in alignment with the Tao, doesn't mean we have to throw them away, right? And then you could kind of come to the conclusion instead of starting that, he's an evil man. You can kind of let them figure it out. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting because sometimes those words, good and evil, can be, a lot of times, they could be polarizing.
They're very polarizing. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Was there anything else on that? I think it was pretty,
I think it's pretty, we
okay.
talked about
Yes, Aleister.
before. All right. Aleister Crowley, The Workings of the Tao. The Tao is the most exalted of all things. That's like, saying God is the most exalted of all things. It is the ornament of the good and the protection and purification of the evil. Interesting.
Ornament.
The ornament.
I
Okay, so
like it
treasure, ornament, yeah, and then
because
protection.
if you think of like an ornament, it's something that people see. So
Mhm.
it's
Ornamentation, like, jewels and
so it's a positive
accessories.
aspect, like maybe something with your behavior or just your presence, right? Is like a treasure to them.
Mhm.
Um, and oh, I was gonna say something else too when you were first reading it. The most exalted, yeah. So exalted too. That word exalted. So people could think that maybe it's praise and like, well, what do you mean? More people praise Jesus than praise the Tao, probably. Well, maybe not because there's like a million people in China, but maybe the word exalted just means to give their attention to. And the Tao doesn't mean the Tao Te Ching. It just means the Tao, the way, right? So people are exalting it and they don't even know it. It's like in previous verses, how it says people are following the Tao even though they don't know they're following it. It's like just the
Mhm.
way, right? So that's how I would look
Yeah,
at that.
it's written in the hearts, right? Like the Bible says in Romans.
Yeah.
And the protection and purification of the evil. So instead of being like a refuge or a last resort, it's actually there for protection and purification. Wow. I really like that interpretation.
It reminds me of the law
It,
of one, right? With the negative
yeah,
beings.
yeah. Like show it love and compassion and it will go away, right?
Also because, well, yes, that, but also because to get to the next level, it has to be like 95% evil.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like purifying it. So in my mind, it's not
Wow.
saying that the Tao is good or evil. It just works on either one, right? It sharpens both good and evil. It creates, it encompasses both and evil. So why wouldn't it make evil more evil, or negativity more negative? Because if you look at this whole universe as you've got different scales like hot and cold, and different points on the scale like temperature. It's the same thing with good and evil, right? So the more quote unquote good is in the world, you have to have this evil that rises up to match it. The more light, the more darkness. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like non-judgment, I guess you could say. And even
Yeah. And I see it too as like it is there for their protection and their purification for like anyone who is inclined toward, the negative aspects and the quote evil, right? Um because because Stan Rosenthal says refuge, and I think the other guys say something similar, right? Um, so what, a refuge and a protection? Yeah, it's very similar, I think.
it like going with the whole idea of doing until it's done. As you be more evil or negative, you keep doing it. And then most people will just flip back and have
Hit a
that
rock bottom. Yes.
switch, hit a rock bottom, flip over, right? And then the ones that don't, they have to go up to the next density, and they do it till they're done on the other densities, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
But at
that
some
whole
point they
idea
have
just
to flip positive. Yeah.
and just having that, even if that's exactly not how it works, but to have an idea of that, maybe that's kind of how it works. It just lessens your own feeling of being a victim, really, because you're not like
Hmm.
pointing to these evil people and like they're so evil, we need to get rid of them. It's like, well, they're part of the plan. There
Yeah.
needs to be these people here to do whatever the heck
They
they're
need
doing.
to exist so that we can see the good,
And when
right?
people say, how do you know that? I say, because they exist. That's all the
Exactly.
proof I need,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
It wouldn't happen
If it
if it
didn't
wasn't
need
meant
to.
to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the free will aspect, to start to realize that as things happen. And it doesn't mean, that you can't fight against the way things are or try to make your own life better or improve things or whatever. It's just to start at the baseline that, you're not a victim. There's a reason this is going on. There's a reason why my life is screwed up right now. Let's make the reasons work in my favor or whatever. So, I mean, that's a little egoic, but you guys know what I mean.
With the next piece to Aleister Crowley's verse.
Yeah, there it is.
Its words are the fountain of honor, and its deeds the engine of achievement. It is present even in evil. All right, so this is in comparison to like, whilst praise can buy titles, good deeds gain respect. Okay. Its words are the fountain of honor.
So it kind of goes in a different direction here.
Yeah,
It
it's
feels like
different.
it's describing the Tao. Does the next
It
verse?
is.
No.
Are
All
you?
right. Yeah. So Alistair, he's going to totally looks like a little more of an esoteric.
Yeah.
What a surprise route.
Yeah. So what are you getting from that?
Well, I believe so. He's still talking of the Tao, right? So he's describing the workings of the Tao because that's the title. So he basically saying the words of the Tao are fountain of honor, and the deeds are engine of achievement. It is present even in evil. So he's telling you the Tao is everywhere, right? Fountain of honor, deeds are the engine of achievement. So even if you do quote unquote negative or evil deeds, you're still gonna achieve the ends. I guess that the last part is what he's kind of saying that. But to me, he's just kind of describing the Tao a little more. He's giving a few more verses about how it works.
Yeah. And so it reminds me back what you were saying in the previous about the things we were saying right before, is that you have to have the negative to see the positive. And I'm looking through verse 2 right now because that's the next verse I'm going to like translate for myself or interpret for myself. And this is really resonating for me with that verse, that second verse of the Tao, um, because it's showing the polarities, the complete opposites, the hard and soft, the the high and the low. And it's like you can't have one without the other. Like one defines the other. So you can't see beauty if you can't see like ugly, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If ugly didn't exist, you wouldn't know
Yeah.
the beautiful, you know? And so
Yeah.
this
It's a
is kind of
contrast.
what, yeah, what I feel it's saying here when he says it is present even in evil. Like the Tao is God, and God showcases both sides so that we can see both sides. And it's not, uh, people take the word evil so polarizingly, you know, but it's not really meant to be. Um, it just, it's the opposite of good. It's just it's like when we say like a positive and negative, it's just a, what do you, what's the word I'm looking
Polarity.
for? Yeah, it's just a polarity,
Oh,
you
like
know?
yeah, just like opposite ends of the scale, I guess, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah. Hmm.
it's really a pretense also because nobody really is good or evil. They just are what they are. And most of the times it's the ego that is trying to make you pretend like you're good and you do all these good deeds and or that you're evil and you're going to do these bad things. You know, it's really it, it's kind of a disguise, right? Of a persona, a
Mm.
mask that we wear of the ego, I guess. So even in that, because if to bring it back to the whole free will discussion, right? As far as our actions are concerned. So you can even argue that somebody that murdered somebody wasn't even really their fault. Now, I'm not saying that this is my point of view, but I'm just saying you could logically, it could be argued that everything that happened to them caused them to do it. There's really nothing, that they could have done to kind of stop it. It was like a chain of events that happened. Um, and so if that really kind of is the case, or you have that idea, it's just going along with the Tao. It's the same thing. It's like something this person had to experience. So the universe or God or the Tao manifested a form. And but
Yeah,
that's why we focus more on inner work and not judging other people because it's harder to make that decree for like should we put this murderer to death? It's like, but go ahead.
oh, I was going to say this also reminds me of Isaiah 45:7, where God says that he created evil. I'm just trying to find um
There's some key verses that are really great to bring up to people. It's like, well, what about when God said he created evil too?
what's the deal with that?
How dare you? We're gonna sing a
Yeah,
hymn now.
so yeah, in the KJV, in the old King James, it says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. There you have it, people. It says it right in your little Bible.
Right from the book, the good book. All right, let's see.
Yeah, I'm not trying to piss anybody off. It's just interesting.
Oh no, yeah, exactly. I hear you. I mean, I think it's just stuff that we bring up because here, let me take this up because it's a lot of the criticisms you would hear from Christians when you talk about stuff like this. That's all, and we're kind of just like, well, yeah, but what about this?
Yeah. Yeah, these are all the kinds of questions that started coming up for me. Not that this one is in particular, but that I can remember. But yeah, a lot of these are the questions I had that made me go, maybe the Bible isn't exactly what I've been told. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it may not be the be all end all that people say it is, you know?
Yeah, it might have been written by men with an agenda.
Mm.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Or modified, shall we say.
Yes, and it doesn't mean there's not truth in there for sure, but
Right.
like you were saying, it wasn't what I was told it was. That's what you saying that, and basically
Mhm.
me and I'm sure. I was told like basically the same things that, this is the word of God, like handed
Yeah.
down, like he wrote it himself basically. Well,
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
say that. To be fair to Christians, they do say they understand that people wrote it, but it is kind
But
of not to
sometimes
be
they don't.
questioned though.
Yeah.
Yeah, people sometimes act like you're not to question it as if God did write it. So it's kind of like, all right.
Mhm.
But that's cool. I understand why, it's what this show is all about, compassion. All right. So want to start with the second part of these verses?
Yes.
Thus, when a new leader, so this is Stephen Mitchell's version from 1988, going to the second half. Thus, when a new leader is chosen, don't offer to help him with your wealth or your expertise. Offer instead to teach him about the Tao.
Wow.
Yeah, I like that because it's like just show him the way, right?
Mm.
It's the only influence he
Yeah.
should have. I mean, it's pretty self explanatory, I guess,
Oh, show.
at this point. Um, Why did the ancient masters esteem the Tao? Because being one with the Tao, when you seek, you find. And when you make a mistake, you are forgiven. That is why everybody loves it. So you could just say, when you're in accordance with your Dharma, it's kind of like the episode we did last week with Spoons, and she's talking about finding her purpose. And we've been talking about that too, because we had Bootsy on and he's talking about his course about finding your purpose. It's the same kind of thing, right? When you're aligning with your Dharma, with the Tao, you start to get the stuff you need. It's not like you find everything you need, but what you truly need and what you're seeking, you start to find it as you align. Yeah.
Indeed. So
And then the
let's
last
see.
part, right? When you make a mistake, you're forgiven. That is why everyone loves it. So I think that goes with the compassion and everything because you do get a second chance, right? Like, well,
Yeah.
most times, or maybe in the next life.
Yep. Let's see. So what I thought of when you seek, you find, I thought of Jesus saying in the Bible, um, I think it's Jesus, but it says in Matthew 7:7, ask and it shall be given you, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened to you. A lot of these concepts are very old, and you know, people might wonder if there was a. I'm reading this book. Um, I'm always reading a book.
uh,
Um, I think it's called Jesus and Buddha, the parallel sayings. Yeah. And it's talking about, I haven't gotten to the actual sayings, but it's talking about how the things that Buddha talked about and the things that Jesus talked about, there's a lot of like crossover. And so there's, a question of like, oh, well, did they meet? Not did they meet, but like, did, Jesus go into India and learn, or how did he find this or whatever? And it's, I mean, this guy is actually, I think the guy who wrote it is a Christian. So he knows more about Christianity than he does about Buddhism and the Buddha, but he's like open. He's non, I don't know what he called it, like non-sectarian or something like that, where they don't, he doesn't like say, oh, Christianity is the only way. He's more of like, this is how I grew up and these are the teachings I grew up with. So that's why I consider myself a Christian, but he's open to learning other things. So like when he learned about Buddhism, he ended up writing this book about all the parallel sayings between Jesus and Buddha. So
I like it. It's a good idea.
yeah, and so it reminds me of when you seek you find. Here, I mean, someone could write one about the Tao too, or about all of them, like in all the parallel things between all of the major, the Bhagavad Gita. You could write like, okay, Krishna said it like this, and Jesus said it like this, Buddha said it like this, Tao says it like this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think it can be done,
I
not
think
saying
it
that I'm
can
going to do
totally be
it
done.
because that's a huge task undertaking, but um yeah, these concepts are very old, and you know, I'm sure they didn't have to hear them from each other necessarily. It's just like when like this innate, deep inner like consciousness knowing type of thing. And then you write something and it's like, yeah, they wrote it over there in this country, however many thousand years ago, and they wrote it over here in this other place. And who knows? Maybe Jesus was in India and he did learn. I don't know. But
Yep, saying
nevertheless,
Jesus was an Indian and he learned it is it's like you said, it is possible, but it's just a way for people to wrap their mind around how it could have worked. But I like what you said too. Maybe it's just in all of us, and maybe this is just what happens when people start to get spiritual and sit down, meditate, and quiet their thoughts. Maybe this is what pours out, and also by living this experientially, you live this lifestyle, especially the elders in the group, they start to write this stuff
yeah,
down or just carry it down orally. But I see there could have been some crossover for sure either way. But
yeah.
yeah,
But I can attest to these kind of concepts being like a deep inner knowing. And ever since like I was a kid, I feel like there was a lot of stuff that I was like coming to and growing up, and I like reading all these, you know, other texts from other sources and things like that. I was like, I feel like I knew that, but I just never wrote it down, or I never saw it written somewhere, or like it's like you it resonates with you because in that deep inner knowing of yourself, you knew it, and you didn't necessarily know why. So I've experienced that in reading a lot of these older texts. I'm just like, like reading through the Rosicrucian stuff and reading through, you know, um, a lot like theosophical stuff. I'm just like, this is stuff that, and then I'm like, this is stuff we talk about on the show all the time.
exactly. Yep, it shows up everywhere.
Yep. Um, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
that second piece about when you make a mistake, you're forgiven. I mean, that's like you find that in Christianity as well, right? Like ask Jesus for forgiveness, you know, ask God for forgiveness and God will forgive you. But what really is that? I think it's really about forgiving yourself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, and not blaming yourself or hating yourself, having all these negative emotions toward yourself. I think it's more about a balance, and especially like going back to the beginning thing of we are God, we're the only ones who can truly forgive ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
people might be like, "Oh, that's crazy," but
Yeah.
if you don't forgive yourself for your past behaviors, then you're not going to be able to fix your future behaviors, right? Because it's like a cycle we've talked about a lot. Because you hate yourself for the behavior that you did, so you want to escape from it, and you perform more of the behavior, and then you realize it, and it's this vicious cycle. So until you can accept it and realize that you are perfect and have more compassion, um,
And if you go ahead.
I was going to say that's when you truly can forgive yourself.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. Um, when you do that for yourself, could it be that you can do it for others? Because if you really can't forgive yourself, I mean, I don't know if you can truly forgive others. I mean, maybe you can, but maybe not at the depth of, like, not truly at the depth that you could if you learned how to forgive your own self first. Maybe could be.
Sounds pretty plausible to me. I think it's very important. Yeah, for sure. All right. So you want to do the Dwight Goddard?
Yeah. To conserve him was the emperor. Now he's talking about why should a man be thrown away for his evil? And then he says to conserve him was the emperor appointed and the three ministers. So I don't know what he means by the three ministers. Um, that is that an esoteric concept I'm unaware of. I'm not sure because
That's
I
a really
feel like
good question.
they talk about it in a couple other versions, I think. Aleister Crowley says the three dukes. And actually only Dwight and Aleister talk about it, so I'm not even sure
Well,
what that's
reading
referring to.
reading the whole thing, I would say kind of it's basically there probably is some esoteric undercurrents, but it says really that it's better to have somebody ride out with the emperor and three of his ministers. So basically, they're saying like three, four people who get it. So have him be in the company of men who are following the Tao. We'll say right. It's better to
Mm-hmm.
do that than to tell him about it and try to teach him with words. It's better
Oh,
to
as
just
to be examples.
yeah.
Oh, hmm. Thank you. Um, all right, I'll keep reading.
I'll pull it up. Yeah, I read through the whole thing real quick and I'm like, oh yeah. Go ahead.
Better than being in the presence of the emperor and riding with four horses is sitting and explaining this Tao.
Oh, so I got it backwards then. I got it wrong. Oh.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, he said, "Why should a man be thrown away for his evil? To conserve him was the emperor appointed, and the three ministers. Maybe like
Oh, I
in
see.
the
Okay.
physical realm, maybe.
Yeah. All
But
right.
better than this is to be sitting and explaining the Tao.
Uh,
But I mean, I'm still like trying to wrap my head around what this all means.
yeah.
Because, like, if you look at the Stephen Mitchell, he says, when a new leader is chosen, don't offer to help him with your wealth or expertise, offer instead to teach him about the Tao. So I don't know how those two relate.
Oh, maybe so maybe that's what they mean then. So maybe I had it wrong, but he's saying that better than being in the presence of all this um wealth and power, it's better to teach a person about the Tao in the same kind of way.
Mm. To conserve him, maybe in his evil? Is that what they're trying to say then, maybe? What Dwight's trying to say? Like to keep him in evil, like
Yeah,
to keep
yeah,
him in the material realm, in the
yeah.
material world,
I think you're right.
to
Yes.
conserve him.
Hmm.
Maybe. So,
Well, what do you guys think? Leave some comments.
yeah, there you go.
Maybe we could read it next episode if there's a good comment or someone says something in the chat.
All right, I'll read the next piece of it. The reason the ancients esteemed Tao was because if sought, it was obtained, and because by it he that hath sin could be saved. Is it not so? Therefore, the world honors Tao. So there you go, this concept of, seeking you shall find again. And then also the when you make a mistake, you're forgiven, that Stephen Mitchell said, but Dwight says, he that has sin could be saved. So this concept of salvation and forgiveness are like synonymous, right?
Yeah.
And
Except,
that's very like Christian too.
yes, except in what we have as Christianity, most places it's you have to go through central figures, and some of them you even have to go to a man. Like a lot of them will say Jesus, you pray to Jesus, but some it's like you have to go to this man. Tell me
Yeah,
all
some you have to
sins.
believe, you have to be in a cult and you have to believe that this man was a prophet or something. like that and believe all the words because what
That's
he
expert
says
level
was the
though.
word of God.
That's the expert level though. It's the next.
Wow. So the Tao can save you, right, from sin. Wow. What a concept.
What a concept, but you're really what? Only saving yourself? Uh-huh.
Mhm.
All right. So I'm going to read the second part of the Stan Rosenthal version from 1984. And on auspicious occasions, when gifts are sent, rather than sending horses or jade, send the teaching of the Tao. So we've been kind of having that parallel from the Stephen Mitchell one also.
Mhm. It's funny how they both are kind of similar. Written both in the 80s, as we've mentioned before. But
Sense, right?
yes, on auspicious occasions when gifts are sent, rather than sending horses or jade, send teaching of the Tao.
And we talked about the
Indeed.
word auspicious, remember? Because I had it wrong anyway, at least.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because auspicious
Aus-
means a good omen or sign
Oh, okay.
or something like that. And I think previously I had thought it was the opposite or something like that.
Oh, like a bad omen. Yeah, favored, auspicious, favored by fortune, prosperous, fortunate, promising success, propitious, opportune, favorable.
Auspicious. I'm going to start saying that instead of oh shit. Auspicious. All right. Excuse me, everybody. When we first discovered the natural way, we are happy to know that our misdeeds are in the past where they belong. So that has to go like forgiving your sins, right? It's like your misdeeds are in the past, they're already done. You can forget about them, you can move on. It's all about what you're doing right now, right now, right
Yes,
now.
yes,
That's what I would say. And so
yeah,
we are happy to realize we have found a treasure. So
yes.
yeah, it's so true. You're like, oh yeah, it's like a weight lifted off your shoulders. It's the same kind of thing that happens when you have one of these epiphanies and you realize, no, oh wait, maybe I'm not such a piece of garbage, right? I was just lost and now I'm found.
Amen.
Amen.
Amazing grace.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. It's everywhere. That's what the
Um,
amazing
uh,
grace is, right? It's yeah, God's grace, but it's your own grace. It's your own ability
Grace to yourself.
to have the point of view, the worldview to see that you were just lost and making mistakes and it's okay
Mhm.
now. And, you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about pleasuring all your senses or whatever it is.
Yeah. And it's funny you talk about that because, like, not super recently, but like relatively recently, I've been sometimes I'm gonna playing my playlists on my phone that I sync with my computer, listening to some old songs that I used to listen to, like Christian songs that I used to listen to. And I like them. And um, so like I've talked about this before, but like I'll listen to them with like a different ear, like trying to like grasp what maybe the esoteric meaning could be of it, and or kind of translating it for myself. So that's kind of fun sometimes.
Yeah, like it's always cool to go back and listen, especially stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because the words are so interchangeable. Like, what does he, I praise him. Like, who you praising?
Yeah.
Like, what's praise mean? Right. Like
Yeah.
you hear it and you're like, whoa. Yeah. Same thing with all
Yeah.
this TV. Like we've been going back and watching certain things. I think I talked about a little bit like Futurama, and I'm just gonna give it a shout out again because they're like whatever they were talking about. They're like, yeah, that's a scam. They're like kind of like you remember global warming and secondhand smoke. I was like, anyway, yeah,
Mm. Shall
it
I read Aleister Crowley's version?
yeah.
What were you gonna
I
say?
was just gonna say I was thinking about this last night. Like the creators of that show probably believed in both of those things. They're just making fun of everything, and they just nailed it. Like without even realizing.
Who knows? Or
Yeah.
maybe they knew.
Maybe they did. Well, I was thinking about that too, because even like things like global warming, you could be interested in the environment and not want to pollute, but also see that whenever politicians stand behind something and start like making laws and getting taxes, like, wait a minute, is this another scam? Like,
Hmm.
that's all I mean. Like, I'm all for. less pollution and conserving everybody.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
just hate when people start to tell me, like, wait a minute, like, anyway,
Yeah. I
when there's
got
no,
you.
I don't know. Okay, so anyway, back to the Dow. But
We
that's
don't talk
why,
about politics here on the Overshared.
yeah, no, as a
I'm
comedian, I
kidding.
can't
I'm kidding.
really. That's the thing. I can't really pick sides, and maybe that's what they were doing with that show. Like I could make fun of both sides, obviously, of any arguments.
Yeah.
And I was saying that I'm like, you can't. I don't know. I heard somebody saying it recently too, but as a comedian, if once you pick a side, like that's it. Oh,
You're not a
maybe Owen
comedian
was saying it.
anymore.
Owen Hunt,
Maybe. Yeah.
I think, was saying it. Yeah, it's so true because you have to be able to even make fun of yourself.
Yes. See
So
both sides. Yeah.
yeah, and it's funny because we were out to eat the other day with Elizabeth's mom and stepdad and brother, and she was asking me, "Oh, we went to this moonshine tasting. That's right." And they bring out little samples of each thing, and she's like, "What's your favorite?" And I'm like, oh, I like them all their own unique ways. I'm like, I can't pick a
Yeah.
favorite. I'm like, come on.
I know. That's funny.
Sometimes I can. I was just trying to be funny. All right, so here we go. Boom, Aleister Crowley.
Crowley. All right. Though the Son of Heaven were enthroned with his three dukes appointed to serve him, and he were offered a round symbol of a rank as great as might fill the hands with a team of horses to follow, this gift were not to be matched against the Tao, which might be offered by the humblest of men. Wow. Son of heaven. That makes me think of Son of God, right? Jesus, the Son of
Yeah,
God.
it sounds like he's basically saying, like the highest things he can think of. Like, even if God herself came down, like, and gave you this great gift, it wouldn't compare with the Tao. And it's helping me understand the Dwight, was it the Dwight Goddard version
Yeah.
with the
Mm-hmm.
king and the four horsemen? Because now it kind of makes more sense with this context. The way
Okay.
it's funny because usually Alistair is a little more confusing.
But
I'm
this
just gonna,
one's more useful for you.
yeah, I think this is a little clearer, but let me just, let's scroll
Mm-hmm.
back up again and take a quick look now. So we looked at this. So let's just go. To conserve him was the emperor appointed in three ministers. So um I'm trying to think if they're still even talking about a person being thrown away for his evil. Maybe it's just a separate thought to
But who's
conserve
he
him.
saying to conserve him? Who is
Yeah,
being
that's what I'm
conserved?
trying to. hmm. Oh, to conserve him was maybe they're talking about the emperor. Maybe he appointed himself in three ministers. No, I don't know. You know what I'm saying, though? To conserve him was the emperor appointed. And all right, we'll see if anyone has some good comments. Maybe we'll have some realizations and come back.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, I'll pull up the Aleister Crowley, but I think what Alistair is trying to say is clearer here. And I guess from these versions we can deduce what Dwight Goddard's trying to say, at
Yeah.
least.
And they were saying things a little differently. It doesn't mean that that's what the Tao was exactly saying. It's just how they interpreted it. So,
And if you're thinking also, right, so not only did they speak different in the 20s, but if he's trying to make it sound old fashioned for its day, 100 or so years later, it's going to sound extra old fashioned. So I just thought about that. Like, what if they were even, all right. Oh, here we go. So the last part here, I think, right?
yeah. Why did they of old, why did they of old time set such store by the Tao? To set such store probably means to like highly think of it highly or something like that.
Yeah. Esteem.
Because he that sought it might find it. There you go. That's the concept of seeking you shall find. And because it was the purification from all evil, that's the salvation part, right?
Yep. The purification again, too.
Therefore did all men under heaven esteem it the most exalted of all things. And he ends with the same thing he started with, the most exalted of all things.
And you know what? Here we go. Because if somebody, I'm trying to stop the sharing. If somebody says, oh, how dare you let this murderer go? How can you say he's evil or not? That's maybe not what they're talking about. Maybe the evil that they're talking about, because he says right here, oh, and because it was purification from all evil. So what if it is, if you start to follow the Tao or learn about the Tao, then you realize that you yourself aren't evil and you don't hate yourself. And you realize that the reason you did these things that people might have considered bad was because, like I said before, you're lost, you were confused, you were, whatever it was. But now you're not. Now your eyes are open. So now all the past deeds you did are gone. It's like Adam and Eve when they gain sight and then they realize their nakedness, right? It's the reverse of that, though, right? It's like, but the nakedness isn't bad, or whatever. But it's the same kind of thing. So the Tao,
Or maybe they realized they had nothing.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, there you
They
go.
had things. They're like, oh, it's great. We have this great, wonderful life here in the garden. We have all these wonderful things, the animals, the fruit. And then their eyes are open and they realize they have nothing.
Yeah, with it's a different perspective, right? From the
Yeah.
more like physical, yeah,
Yeah. Because it's like realizing, like, when you go, you can't take anything with you, you know?
yeah, exactly.
That's like when you realize you have nothing, that's what it is. It's not about like, oh, you don't really have possessions. It's really, no, I really don't have anything except my consciousness, because even this body is going to go away. So what do I have left with? What is the distillation? What is left once we go? And that is consciousness.
Yes, and that's
Right.
why we believe that elevating or working on your consciousness or purifying it, if you will, or whatever it is, and no matter how that looks, because it doesn't always, Elizabeth shared this Bashar clip with me, which is great. And Bashar was saying how, somebody asked him, like, how come after I have like a spiritual revelation, then there's like a down period, like a down, like I feel like I sink down. Like he's like, I feel like I go up and then I sink down. He goes, yeah, that's how you feel. But he goes, what's really happening is you go up and then you go down a little bit and then you go up and then you go down a little bit. He's like, you don't
Mhm.
realize that you're still elevating. And what happens when you get to a certain point
It's
is
just a peak, and then you just down a little bit, but another peak down a little bit. Yeah.
exactly. It's more like if you're looking at the stock market, it doesn't just shoot up, right? It goes, well, sometimes Bitcoin, everyone, but there's all these planes and peaks and candles and however, whatever you say.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I think it's the same idea really with the purification of evil and all that stuff. Anyway, that's what I was saying. I forget, but
Awesome. Are we ready for verse 63? Very good
uh,
insights we got on that one.
yeah, I think we did. We're ready. Here we go. All right. Stephen Mitchell from 1988. Act without doing, work without effort. Think of the small as large and the few as many. Confront the difficult while it is still easy.
Mhm.
Accomplish the great task by a series of small acts. Brandon? No. This is great. The master never reaches for the great. Thus, she achieves greatness. When she runs into a difficulty, she stops and gives herself to it. She doesn't cling to her own comfort. Thus, the problems are no problem for her.
Dwight Goddard. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Oh, yeah. I don't know what I'm doing. Hi,
That's
everybody.
okay.
I just wanted to show us I just wanted to show you our smiling faces. Okay. I'm so excited about breaking them down when I
I
read
know, I
them.
know. I'm
I'm already
excited too,
like
but
skipping ahead. Yeah, I know.
Dwight Goddard entitles this A Consideration of Beginnings. One should avoid assertion, wu wei, and practice in action. And I'll get into why I think he wrote wu wei next to avoid assertion later. One should learn to find taste in the tasteless, to enlarge the small things and multiply the few. He should respond to hatred with kindness. He should resolve a difficulty while it is easy, and manage a great thing while it is small. Surely all the world's difficulties arose from slight causes, and the world's great affairs had small beginnings. Therefore, the wise man avoids to the end participation in great affairs, and by doing so establishes his greatness. Rash promises are lacking in faith, and many things that appear easy are full of difficulties. Therefore, the wise man considers everything difficult, and so to the end he has no difficulties. Paradoxes, paradoxes.
Yeah, and I can't wait to talk about it. Okay, Stan Rosenthal from 1984. Beginning and completing, act without contriving, work naturally, and taste the tasteless. Magnify the small, increase the few, and reward bitterness with care. Seek the simple in the complex, and achieve greatness in small things. It is the way of nature that even difficult things are done with ease, and great acts made up of smaller deeds. Mr. Deeds. The sage achieves greatness by small deeds multiplied. Promises easily made are most easily broken. The acting with insufficient care causes subsequent trouble. The sage confronts problems as they arise. On that, they do not trouble him.
So that.
Oh, so yeah, so that they do not trouble him. Okay, cool.
All right, Aleister Crowley entitles this Forethought at the Outset. Act without lust of result, work without anxiety, taste without attachment to flavor, esteem small things great and few things many. I don't know if that's correct, but maybe it is. Repel violence with gentleness, do great things while they are yet small, hard things while they are yet easy. For all things, how great or hard soever, have a beginning when they are little and easy. So thus the wise man accomplisheth the greatest tasks without undertaking anything important. Who undertaketh thoughtlessly is certain to fail in attainment. Who estimateth things easy findeth them hard. The wise man considereth even easy things hard, so that even hard things are easy to him.
I love this verse.
Me
I
too.
really like the Aleister Crowley verse. I think I'm going to send it to people. It's something good to just read. Wow, it's crazy because it's all encapsulated right there. Really, sometimes they do that in one verse, they get it all like,
Yeah,
all
it's
right,
a really good one.
let's talk about it. Okay, so Stephen Mitchell from 1988, act without doing. So we've talked about that before, right? Work without effort, way woo way, do without doing, kind of flow state, right? That's what they're talking about.
Right, flow state.
Think of the small as large and the few as many. So it's all about looking at things from a different point of view,
Perspective,
right? Oh, to
yes.
just change it around. Look at it. What if I'm wrong, right? What if I was wrong? What does that
The
mean?
hanged man.
Yeah, the hanged man. Oh, Sharon, that's perfect. Bang, the hanged man. You're upside down, looking at everything. Confront the difficult while it is still easy. That's just some great advice. Accomplish the great task by a series of small acts. And that's really good, especially for like INTP types, like with our ways that we get overwhelmed by either thoughts or emotions. This is a great way to do it. Like instead of
Yeah.
analysis paralysis or whatever, you look at the small instead of looking at the big. And then as you work on a series of, I'm trying to stop sharing, as you work on the series of small tasks or whatever it is, the bigger picture comes into place and you're not even consciously doing it. I think I said this last week about plans. When you make plans and you set these rigid goals, you close out any other possibilities that can happen. So instead, if you have a series of small tasks or goals or things you want to accomplish, then the big ones start to just take care of themselves. And then the synchronicity of the universe kind of just comes in,
It
I guess you
just
could say, even.
falls into place.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like just do your work and then don't worry about where it's going to head.
Yeah.
But they say more about it in the other verses. So I obviously say something, but I'm not, that's all I'll say for now. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like the advice that's like obvious. Like I was perusing through this book, or at least reading some reviews on it, and because I was going to see if I was going to read it, and it's about um like how to keep your home kind of clean and organized and tidy so that it's a place for you to like relax and enjoy instead of feeling like you're always in clutter and like you can't have people over because the house is a mess or whatever. And not that my house is like ridiculously filthy or gross or anything, but I was just like gonna peruse through the book to see if there was any good tips on how to do certain things, you
Yeah.
know.
We can all use some of that, I'm sure.
Yeah. And but yeah, it's like they were, I think one of the things that maybe was a concept was to like start small and take baby steps. And like you know, don't think you're going to do it all at once because it it happened over time. It's not going to happen overnight now to reverse it, right? It's like it's like also it's like gaining weight too. Like if you see that you're gaining some weight and you you're like, "Oh, I don't want to," or for whatever reason, right? And then like you don't maybe do something to like prevent it from continuing, it just creeps up and then it's like maybe you didn't notice and all of a sudden you're like 30, 40, 50 pounds heavier. Then you're like, how did this happen? Well, it didn't happen overnight, right? But if you weren't paying attention to the present moment, you weren't keeping an eye on it, it crept up on you and you feel like it happened overnight.
Exactly. You're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened to me. I was I wasn't like obese or anything, but I was probably 30 or 40 pounds heavier than I am now. And I'm 6'5", so it wasn't that huge, but I would still look at myself and I felt kind of overwhelmed. And the way that it happened was it did, like you said, just slowly happened. It just slowly, I just started eating better, whatever, found a better pattern, and it went away. And now I don't have to worry about it. I just kind of do my thing. But anything like that, it's so true. Once you're overwhelmed, you look at your whole house and you're like, how can I make my whole house better? And
Yeah.
that's what we've been doing. It's really synchronistic that this comes up because we've been
Yeah.
just rearranging things. It has to do with where I'm podcasting right now and
Yeah.
moving things around and
Yeah.
getting rid of stuff. And it really is small steps that, you do what you can when you can. And if you get overwhelmed, that's the problem. If you get overwhelmed with it, and this is like self work, this has to do really with
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Oh
if
yeah.
if you get overwhelmed, then you might and you stop doing it, then you might not want to go back to doing it because you're going to remember that feeling of being overwhelmed. So that's why it's always good to take breaks and give yourself rewards and stuff.
Yeah. I think that book probably talks about stuff like that too. But
But again,
anyway,
everyone has
I
their own
thought
way,
about
right?
this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. It does resonate with that for sure. All right, where was we?
Do you want to do the second part of it together or do you want to do them separate?
I mean, I guess we could do them separate because it does
Talk
seem
about the
like,
master.
yeah, each one, because of the concepts in each one, I kind of want to run them by each other,
Yeah,
if
me
that
too.
makes sense. Yeah. Okay, cool. So you want
All
to read
right.
this part now?
So Dwight Goddard says, entitles it A Consideration of Beginnings. One should avoid assertion, Wu Wei. Now, I said I was going to review or talk about why I think he wrote Wu Wei there because we talk about Wu Wei as like non-action. So I'm like, why didn't he write it next to not to inaction? But I'm wondering if he was doing it because he's talking about avoiding assertion as the concept of Wu Wei, not the assertion itself, but the avoiding assertion. What do you think, Brendan?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, one should avoid assertion, wu wei. I don't think they said what you said. Yeah, what you said makes sense.
Okay.
I don't think they're saying that wei wu is assertion, but the avoidance of assertion, I think, is yeah,
Okay. That's
for
what I
shizzle
figured.
makes sense. Certainty is a
And
road to ruin, right?
yeah, one should learn to find taste in, well, did I read that? One should avoid assertion, wu wei, and practice inaction. One should learn to find taste in the tasteless, to
Mm.
enlarge the small things and multiply the few. He should respond to hatred with kindness. He should resolve a difficulty while it is easy and manage a great thing while it is small. Surely all the world's difficulties arose from slight causes, and all the world's great affairs had small beginnings. That's what I was talking about earlier. Like things happen, they creep up on you before you know it if you're not paying attention, right? Another kitty appearance, right?
Yeah, and that's what happened. I wasn't paying attention, and a small kitty crept up on me.
Creature climbed onto your table.
Yeah, that's why I
That's
got to get a cat tree in here so they could climb on that and hang out with me instead of climbing over the computer stuff. It's all right though. It's part of the
cat
adventure.
condo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's see. One should learn to find taste in the tasteless. Interesting.
Well,
To enlarge the small things and multiply few. Go ahead, so if you have any thoughts.
it's I for me it just reminds me of being grateful for things really. Like you
Mm-hmm.
just kind of find, good in the bad. You find the silver lining of the cloud or whatever
Yes.
it is, right?
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm glad you said that because, um, like, let's just say, for example, you're out and like, let's say you're kind of a hermit or you're kind of a in introvert, right? And I've been kind of hermiting and introverting myself lately, so this is why I can resonate with this. But let's say that, like, for me, like Cody will be like, hey, there's XYZ going on. Let's go check it out. And I may not be in a quote mood to like be out and about. And I may feel like I want to introvert a little, but I also don't want to be a party pooper. And it's
Yeah.
not like we do this like all the time. So I will go and um it might not be something that is my, you know, favorite thing to do. Maybe it's a concert or somebody that I don't, maybe the music I'm not a really big fan of or whatever. Um, but I will do my best to just be in the present moment and enjoy the silver lining the best way I can. And sometimes I'm not so good at it, but that's something I have to work on because it's my thing. If I am not finding the silver lining, then I'm not gonna find the gratitude, right? But for me, it'll work out better for me if I can find the gratitude because then I'll just enjoy myself, right? Regardless of what situation I'm in. So that's my example for that line.
No, it's a great example, and you're taking yourself out of your comfort zone, really, is what you're doing. So it's good for growth, right? That's what we always say.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And you might find a band that you actually like live. It's funny because I've seen people live, and that's what made me like them. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, we did see a cool live band. Like the show that we went to see wasn't until later, but the band that played before it, the what do they call that?
opening act or
The
the
opening,
the
yeah,
opener or
openers.
the yeah.
They were cool. I liked the way they were playing. It was nice.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, the other people were good too. They just weren't exactly my style, but that's okay.
Oh, that's cool. Then at least you got one out of two. All right. So here we go down here,
All
right?
right. Wait, we
Oh no, you were still up here?
yeah, I think we had just done learn to find taste in the tasteless.
Oh yeah,
Enlarge small
right. Yep.
things, multiply the few. I think we were going to compare them to the Stephen Mitchell one.
Okay, yes, you're right.
So
What?
think of the small as large, and he says enlarge the small, multiply the few. So that's translated similarly. He should respond to hatred with kindness, and Stephen Mitchell's just more general about that
And it's
because all the
funny
different countries,
because
well, it's easy.
what I
Go
see here
ahead.
is a pattern of they're saying that if you're gonna do not do wu wei, is you respond the opposite with the opposite energy basically of everything. And I don't like that because
Or at least the negative,
I thought
which
the
has
cat
happened.
jumped down there. There's a beam up there the cat was on. I thought she saw
Oh,
that. So no.
holy smokes.
She's like fired up right now. It's hilarious. But what were we saying?
Respond to the opposite
Oh
way.
yeah, because if there's hatred or like road rage incident, someone gets mad, then you flip them off. You're just keeping the energy going and building it up.
Mhm.
But with this, you're diffusing the situations. You're so you're going with the flow, but you're kind of just it's like judo, right? Or what's the other one where you use the other person's energy? Um,
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah, I think judo's that way. You like do a lot of hip flips and stuff like that. And there's
Oh,
another one too I can't think of, but it's that maybe it's not capybara, one of those. Anyway, there's so many martial
oh,
arts.
capo, whatever, the
Capybara,
Brazilian one.
or yeah, I'm
I was
thinking of
thinking
capybara, right?
capybara,
Yeah, it's
capoeira, capia, whatever. I don't remember how
it's
to
the
pronounce it.
capybara way. Everybody just do the
Yes.
opposite of what everyone else is doing, and they're thrown off.
Who's gonna
Uh,
ride a caiman's back? I
yeah,
mean, really.
exactly, exactly. And that's what I'm seeing though as a common thread here, and it's
Yeah.
very interesting, especially responding to hatred with kindness. That's a because it's gonna be a tough
Mhm.
one for people, but
That's tough.
you just stop the cycle of hatred though, right? It stops with you.
Mm,
Because I feel like
indeed.
it'll consume you in a kind of it's like a vibration that you get on, right? It's a level that you sink down or however you want to look at it. So if
Yeah.
you respond with kindness, it's just bouncing off of you. You're like Neo in the Matrix. You're just kind of
It's like you were saying about the law of one. Like the negativity wants to polarize 95% negative. Like it wants to go in that direction. And when you respond with kindness, it has to like come back from there. It can't keep going negative.
yep. The only thing it could do is try to throw you off your center and keep responding with hate or whatever. But if you just keep responding with kindness, is uh, you know, and no one ever expects it
It
to
ain't easy,
be fair.
folks. It ain't easy. But
No.
well,
But though I think the more you
speaking
do
of,
it and practice it, probably gets
it
easier.
gets easier. Yeah.
And if it's not easy, do it while not while it. If it's difficult, you do it now while it is easy. So you start with the small things, is what they're saying, right? It's like
Yes.
your practice. Start with
Yes.
yourself. Start being easy on yourself. There you go.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I
Like
think we said it all.
I
I
have a
think
I
so
have a
too.
thing I respond to people a lot when somebody will say something in a situation like they'll think it's bad, like oh my god this happened, and I'm like good. It's just something I've always done. I might have picked up when I was in the Marines or
Das ist
whatever.
sehr gut.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, that guy, we didn't get our food. Like, good. Like, what? Yeah, I don't know. It's just because people aren't expecting it and you just throw off the whole energy, and then
Yeah.
that's,
I don't go quite that way. I just say wow, because that could go either way too.
yeah, no, that's a good way to,
Like,
I
oh,
don't always
wow.
do it, but yeah, I'm like, good.
Or interesting.
Hmm. Very
Hmm.
interesting.
Indeed. All
It's
right.
a good tactic for energy vampires, right? Because if somebody if you know somebody in your life that's always telling you these bad things and
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to get
Mm-hmm.
you in that bad energy, like, oh, did you hear this person just died? I had a person in my life that was like that, and a family member, and I would always just be like, yeah, people die, like that's what happens. I hope they had a good
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Sucks, whatever. I mean, it sucks, but people die. I'm like, we're gonna die, so that
Dude, that's funny that you
energy
mentioned.
vampires. I'm like energy blade vampire. I'm like a day walker. I'm like, whatever. No.
I just put like you saying that, I just put two and two together on like someone that's like that that I know, and I'm like, I guess
They
I
just blow your
don't,
mind.
yeah, because I guess I didn't realize I was being effective with my blocking, that I don't get it from them that much anymore because
Oh, so you
they
didn't realize
can't,
it's working.
yeah.
See? There's no energy to get there. And it's not even a conscious thing. Like when we're not judging people when we, okay, say we're not judging, comma, people. So people out there, I'm telling you, we're not judging, right? So, but when we talk about energy vampires, it's just a behavior. And really the negative thing I see about it is that if you're unhappy, grateful, and you're very happy and you're grateful in this state of mind, somebody comes along, they can knock you off of that, right? They could kind of bring you down to their level. And this is just not about not doing it. And a lot of times it's unconscious. They don't even realize they're doing it. So we're not pointing fingers at people, people, it's like misery loves company. They don't know why, but when someone has issues and they feel like they're a victim, they want other people to to commiserate with. So
I
it's
want
that's
I want to
right.
say something about that because before I forget,
Yeah, go
because
ahead.
when Joe was here, we like Cody was out of town and Sandra was sleeping in. So he and I went to a coffee shop and we like caught up and we were just chatting about all kind of things. And he brought this point up that was like, it, like I see it now. It makes total sense, but I had never like seen it that way before. But when he was saying that when people are like, let's say they're pushing down an energy or a feeling that they don't want, they don't consciously necessarily do it, but they will mirror that, or they'll do something to almost like get you to feel what they're feeling. So
Oh
they say
yeah.
things in order to get you in that spot. Like,
Oh,
so if they're angry, they'll always bring up things that, to get you to be angry so that you're kind of commiserating with them, but you know what I mean? But they're just pushing down their anger. So that's how you can tell what they're trying to push down, the energy they're pushing down, or,
interesting.
right?
Yeah. So the takeaway from this, which I'm getting, is if I see myself doing that, trying to get someone else angry, I could be like, oh shit, there's
Um,
anger that I don't want to feel. It's a good thing for road
yes.
rage too. It's
Yes.
kind of making me laugh though, because I'm like, this explains why the reaction I get from a lot of people now. I'm like, oh, I get it, because I'm not commiserating in their anger. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, they're like, fuck
Mm-hmm.
the government. I'm like, yeah, but without the government,
Yeah.
trust me, I'm like, I'd
Mm-hmm.
be fine. I'm like, I think you'd be, but anyway, so it's that whole thing, right? When you're playing devil's advocate,
Yes.
you're not being able to have your energy taken or shifted or whatever. And
Yeah.
and it probably is the best thing you can really do for people, because either they're going to be repelled by it or they're going to be attracted, and maybe it'll cause them to start their own journey, within.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Indeed.
Indeed. All right. That was a good revelation. I like that. You have to store that one in the back for later.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah,
I
I
like
think I
this
read
too.
that one, but very much what we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It starts off small, so you nip it in the bud, as they say, right?
Yeah. And the arguments too, and the little, especially if like relationships or friendships, these little disagreements and things, you just, instead of sweeping them under the rug, like families do a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get out in the open, be like, well, what's the big deal? And then most times people are like, oh, it's not even that big of a deal. Like a lot of times I just don't, like if somebody tells me to do something, I just don't want to do it because they're telling me to do it. So later I'm like, I
You
don't know,
INTP
I
you.
just didn't want to be doing it. Like but when you start to INTP, it's a great example. If that happens, and then I'll start to come up with all these reasons why I'm right, and I just start to like solidify my opinion on my side, and I stand more behind it, right? But instead of doing all that, if you can nip it in the bud small, then it doesn't become a
I'll
big
give
issue.
you something to nip in the bud small. Just don't send me the old podcast audios, please. Just don't.
Don't send them.
Don't
We
do
don't
it.
want them.
Don't do it.
I won't. Don't worry. All right, maybe I
Do
will.
you have the angel devil
Hmm.
next to you going,
Yeah. They're like, shh.
do it,
Like,
don't do it, do it, don't do it.
remember. Tell me to forget to do it, and then I'll remember.
Forget. Just forget
All
about
right.
it. Forget
Yeah, there
about
we
it.
go. There, that's the all right. Forget about it.
Just forget about it.
Uh, you're right, though. I need to do that
Mm.
soon. I'm gonna forget about it though. It's fine. It'll be great. All right, so I'm gonna
The
read the
reverse
second.
psychology doesn't work either. Damn it.
Yeah, you got to do like a triple reverse. It's like football. Um, so Stan Rosenthal, act without contriving, work naturally, and taste the tasteless. So I like this. Taste the tasteless is probably a little bit better of a way. But I really like the way Aleister Crowley puts it. So we could just keep going, I guess, because I like his way. So anyway, magnify the small, increase the few, and reward bitterness with care. So it's the same thing. Reward bitterness with care is the same thing as hatred with kindness, right? Kind of thing. Um,
Yeah. Wow.
seek the
Like maybe
simple and the
people, I just
complex.
thought of,
Oh,
I
go
just
ahead.
thought
Yeah.
of this really quick. Like maybe someone on their deathbed being bitter and like, you know, or just, you know, just someone just being bitter. And what can you do? You can just,
And I like how it says care because what else would they need? It's a lack of care that probably brought them to where they are.
yeah. Now, what that care is, I don't know. I guess it
Just no
depends on
ends, no Karens. Ha, that went a different way than you guys thought. It's a Karen. All right. That's it,
no
everybody.
N
I'm
at
done.
the end of Karen. Care with an N.
No ends. Sharon's like, is he going for it? No.
I didn't even
Oh, good.
notice,
Yeah.
honestly. I'm sure other people did though.
Yeah. When they're watching this, they'll be like, what? Where's he going with this? All right. Yes. But anywho,
Hmm.
I like that Kara. It's good.
If you had the word after that, maybe I would have noticed.
Yeah. A lot of people would have. No.
Because it almost sounded like you were saying ENDS.
Oh, no ends. Oh, I thought you said, yeah. But I was
Yeah.
like, no
And
end.
ends to the
No letter
means to the end.
ends, guys. No end letters here. No Karen ends. All right. Um, let's see. Yes, seek the simple in the complex, and it's a way to look at things differently, right? And achieve greatness in small things. It is the way of nature that even difficult things are done with ease, and great acts made up of smaller deeds. But I do like achieve greatness in small things because it goes to, I think it's something Alistair says too, but this idea of like we want to change the world, we got to make the world a better place, right? If you
It
really want
starts
it,
with you.
the small little things like your own attitude, the own way you view what happens to you every moment, like that's where it starts. I don't know what's going on upstairs now. She's going nuts. Crazy
And it's
kitty on her
so
hands. Anyway,
paradoxical, right?
yeah, it
Like,
really is. Go ahead.
wow.
Because you want
Um,
to change it all now because you feel like you can't live in this world one more minute because it's so terrible. So that's just the way you're looking at it. You don't realize that you could be wrong. It could be for a reason, and you don't have to agree with it. You don't even have to like it. But just knowing that maybe this is for another reason, that there's a higher purpose that I'm not aware of. I don't like it, but there is. Just that. Now you're not a victim.
the
A little
mystery.
bit
Yeah.
because you don't like it, but that's fine. You don't have to like it right away. You figure it out. Little steps, like we said, baby steps.
Yes, baby steps.
All right.
That may become a new oversharing tenant.
Yeah, baby steps.
Um, yeah. Seek the simple in the complex. I like that too.
All right, I'm gonna bring it back up. Bring it back up. There we go. Um, yeah. Okay, so I reread all that. Great acts made up of smaller deeds. All right, here we go. Unless you have something
All
more to
right.
say.
Aleister Crowley entitles the forethought at the outset. Act without lust of result.
Now that I'm just going to stop it right there
We've
because
talked
that
about this all the time.
we do, but this is the best way to put it, right? Lust of
Yeah.
results.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, whoa, because the word lust here, it really
Yeah.
makes you think about your
Like
desires,
desires.
right? And what you're doing. Like, am I lusting for this piece of chocolate right now? Like, am I lusting for this new car? Like
Yeah.
whatever it is, or another person, right? Am I objectifying this person? Are they an object or are they just another piece of God, just like me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry though. Go ahead. I just
Yeah.
when
No,
you
no,
first read that the first time, I like to bite my tongue.
that's
Like,
totally fine.
yeah,
Um, it's a good point. Work without anxiety. Wow. Like,
yeah.
can you do your work, the things that you do? Can you do them happy? Can you do them with a smile on your face? Can you do them joyfully? Because why? Because that is not an anxious feeling, right?
Because what is anxiety other
Worry.
than worrying about how it's going to come out, the future?
Yeah. The
It,
lust
you
of
have
the
this
end
lust,
goal
like Spoon said. You're trying to write the story
story.
yourself, and it's such a great metaphor. It's been helping me so much. It's like, am I trying to write the story here? I think
Yeah.
I am. Let me see how it plays out and
Mhm.
see how I fit into the story instead of me trying to write the story. That's like our ego, right? Like, even me noticing it and telling you how good I am is my ego. It's great. But again, there's nothing wrong with it because I'm not judging it, right? So anyway, yeah, this
You look like you died for my sins.
I look like I died for the sins. What am I gonna do? I'm over here dying for the sins, and all they could do is tell me to cover my smiling face. Come on, no.
Oh God. I don't know if I don't think I sent it to you. There's this I saw on some random place. I saw a video of a dude doing like a chakra cleansing or something, and he freaking looks like you in the sense of with the long hair and the beard, right? And he's just doing this like he's holding this like selenite. I'm gonna hold my little guy here, but he's like holding the selenite and he's doing these things like just like he's like, and he's not saying any words. There's like music in the background and it's like words in the front, like cleansing your chakras right now, and blah blah blah. He's doing all this. And I'm like, why is this guy so soothing? Like, why does he look so like this is just like really like I'm like, he looks like he died for my the connection. He looked like Jesus. I was like, oh my gosh.
Am I dying now? Is this Jesus? Yeah, I mean that's what
Oh,
I can say
that's
too. It's like
funny.
I have to be careful when I'm around somebody that got knocked out. Like if I'm the first person they see, I can't be the first person someone sees after they wake up in a coma. They're like, "Am I in heaven?" Like, because I look
Don't
like
go
I
to
died for their
hospitals when
sins.
someone's on their deathbed, okay?
Yeah, I could probably get a job at I could. That'd be like I could do. Yeah, it's his new ways of comedy. I have new. I'm gonna punk people like wake up from comas. I'm gonna be like, "You made it. Let's party." Nope, just kidding. You're still here. All
Okay, I sent it to you on Telegram just so you have it.
right, awesome. That's funny. Look like I died for the sins. All right, I think you were up here though, right? Oh yeah, taste without.
Oh yes, taste without attachment to flavor. Okay, yeah. So like going back to that whole concept of like um you're somewhere where you don't want to be, or you whatever, right? Let's say you're at a restaurant and you're like, "Oh man, this food isn't really that great," or whatever, And you could just be like, "You know what? Before I even put something in my mouth, I'm just going to be grateful that it's here and I'm going to like it. It's going to taste great. I'm going to enjoy this." And I bet you that changes everything. I mean, I can't say that like I've experienced that yet because I haven't tried it because I just thought of it right now. But
I'm gonna go try
but
some.
I
I'll be right
think
back.
But I think that I will try that, you know? I
Yeah,
mean, isn't that the intent? Isn't that what prayer should be? Like the intention of prayer? Like when Jesus was grateful for, it's like he gave thanks. It doesn't say he like was like, oh God, XYZ, I'm praying for this food, blah, blah, blah. He was like, he gave thanks. That's what he did. He was grateful, basically. So that is like praying for your food.
100%. And the other thing too, well, I mean, I like what you said about that, but the other thing too, when you're tasting food is just to go into it um without any expectations and to actually taste it instead of saying, "Oh, I don't
Savor.
like this." You're like, "Hmm, yeah, savor." Be like, "Oh, this really does taste like dog shit." No, I mean, like, but really get in there and kind of feel the notes and
Enjoy
why
the
is it
moment.
bitter? Is what's going on with it? Why does it not taste good? Yeah, and maybe you'll
Identify the flavors, maybe.
and all these lines remind me of being in the Marine Corps. Because when you're in boot camp, you're just so hungry, you eat anything they put in front of you. It doesn't matter. So I was like, I hated tomatoes. And I was like, yeah, I'll take tomatoes, like whatever you got. This is great. And that's what happened when I first ate the tomato. I'm like, oh, all right, this is how it tastes now. Because maybe when I was younger, I just didn't like the taste. So then I became somebody who didn't like tomatoes, and then
Yeah,
everybody
exactly.
like supports that, your whole family. Oh, you don't like tomatoes, right? You don't want them on your sandwich. And
Yeah.
then when you realize you do like tomatoes, it's like anything else. And you got to just be like, no, I like tomatoes. And I think my
Yeah.
family just gave up on me because I don't have a certain way I like things anymore. Like I used to have not like ice in my drinks, and I'm like, no, I want ice. No, I don't, it's
Yeah. I'll take it
like
however
you don't
you
eat
send
meat,
it.
do you? Oh yeah, I eat meat, like whatever. Like,
Yeah, God help me.
this week I'm yeah, no, it's like, but to get back to what I was
I
saying though,
aim to be at that I aim to be at that place where you are.
yeah, I just feed off the light. It's great. Um, to get back though to what I was saying, so I just had this attachment. I just identified as somebody who didn't like tomatoes. Then I ate one. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. So in that same way though, just not taste of food. It could be taste of anything,
Anything.
right? What's your
Mhm.
preferred people that you hang out with, or what kind of music do you like? You hate country? Well, why don't you just give it a try? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Like, yeah, are you a person who hates country music? Like, is that how you identify yourself?
Yeah, because I used to, and now I, pop new country or whatever. Some of it's all right, but the older stuff, I'm just like, whoa, this is
Yeah,
based. A Country Boy Will Survive by Hank Williams Jr. What? He performed that
that's
live in New York City in front of everyone, and he's just like, "You guys are gonna die, and I'll be fine." Is basically what he's saying. It was great. Anyway,
that's funny because Cody's sister named her dog Hank Williams Jr.,
yeah, there we
I
go.
think.
A country
Oh,
boy will survive. Sorry.
but in it back to the whole like the food and the tasting and stuff too. Like I have told the story before, but I'll just quickly reiterate that you can change your mind about something and it will it will be different, you know. I didn't think I liked ginger when I was growing up because and not that I experienced a lot of it, but when I tasted it, it to me it tasted like soap. Like, don't ask me how I knew what soap tastes like, but like I'm like, it tastes like it would be cleaning my mouth. Like it tastes like soap. But that's what it's doing. It's like it's a palate cleanser.
Yeah, it's doing its
I just
job.
realized that. Um, so yeah, it is soap, but it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. um, but when I heard people like, oh, this it's great for you, it's like healthy, it's this, it's blah 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 blah. I was like, okay, fine. I'm gonna try it. And I'm just gonna try it with an open mind. And I did, and then I was like, over time, I was like, oh my God, I love this stuff. It's so good. It's so pungent and like strong and yeah.
Mm,
So you can also change your mind about things too. Now I haven't done that with fresh onions yet. I think that's the last thing.
yeah, I used to
I
not. I
cannot
eat
do
them
raw
now, but I was
onions.
the same way. I didn't like onions. I didn't like spicy food either. All this stuff, but then once you have it and you taste it, and the spices is a good analogy for this because I guess I would just be overwhelmed. But once I actually tried it and I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. It's just a little bit of uncomfort, whatever. And then
Yeah.
you realize you could let it go. Or now I could just eat whatever. I'm just like, oh, this is like I can't see, but at least I'm getting my eyes are watered and I'm all clear now. I could breathe. Like,
Yeah. What you call it? Cayenne pepper is a good it's allegedly a replacement for aspirin. So if anyone's feeling like they're allegedly, right? We're not making claims here on the
try
show.
some, try some
But
cayenne.
yeah, if
Start small though.
someone's
Remember, small steps. Just
baby steps.
dump it all in
All
your
right,
mouth. Yeah,
let
yeah.
me
We're
finish
gonna
reading
go
Aleister Crowley.
back. God.
All right. Esteem small things great and few things many. Okay, yeah, that was first I read it. I was like, wait, what? Okay. Esteem small things great, like small things as great and few things as many.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I don't know what to say about that, you know? Um,
It's pretty much what they were saying in the other, kind of look at it as, look at small things as great and great things as small, kind of like, shift your perspective around a little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah, hanged man approach. But I also think of like the biggest gifts come in the smallest packages or something like that, or like the best gifts are free or something like that type of thing,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, very true.
And few things, many. Yeah, because like, okay, when you think like minimalist, right? And you're like, if you're living a life that's like, you're doing your best to not have a lot of things, right? And you're keeping your house as tidy as you can, blah, blah, blah. You know, even just the few, let's say you have like, because Marie Kondo, we talked about this with spoons, but Marie Kondo is like, you tend to only wear like not even half of what's in your wardrobe. Like you have your favorites. You pick this one. Oh, I always pick this shirt. I always pick, and I find I do the same thing. And it's not until like I need to do laundry that I'm like, I need to pick something else because my favorite shirt's in the laundry, right? So I'll pick something different, right? Um, but like few things as many, like those few things are the like they're your treasure. You love wearing those clothes. So like you esteem them as like being, you know, a big thing, a lot of things. Maybe you wish you had more of them. You're like, I wish I had bought like 10 of these.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Sometimes I do. No.
Yeah, I know. I've done that before too, but sometimes you can't. They only have
Oh, yeah,
one.
makes sense.
They only
Yeah,
have one color or whatever.
one size of yours. Yeah, that makes sense though. Totally.
Repel violence with gentleness. We talked about that before, I think.
Yep.
Not in that one's very like whatever. Anyway,
Simple.
do great things. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's pretty simple. Like,
Yeah. Do
yeah.
great things while they are yet small, hard things while they are yet easy. For all things, how great or hard soever, have a beginning when they are little and easy. And that was basically said in pretty much the other verses.
Yep. Exactly. All right. I'll bring up. Guess I could have just scrolled up. So we'll go on to part two of verse 63, Stephen Mitchell version. The master never reaches for greatness, thus she achieves greatness.
Uh,
So,
reaches for the great.
oh, for the great, yeah, sorry, sorry. The master never reaches for the great, thus she achieves greatness. So it reminds me again about like having plans to be great and all this stuff, right? Or you just
Yeah,
do the little things, right? And you'll
yeah,
achieve the greatness. You're not trying to be, you're
yeah.
just trying to be in the middle. All right. When she runs into a difficulty, she stops and gives herself to it. And that it has a lot about attention and stuff, right? So when you're trying to tackle the small before they become difficult, it helps when you give it all your attention. Also, she
And
doesn't
to
cling.
me,
Oh yeah, please do.
I was gonna say that makes me also think of letting go too, because like when she runs into a difficulty, she stops and gives herself to it. In other words,
Uh,
she gives herself time to like let it go, right?
yeah, I like that. I didn't think about it that way. Makes sense with what we've been talking about, though. Um,
Yeah, because when you let it go, you allow yourself to experience that without trying to change it, right? So she gives herself to it.
yeah, exactly. I like it. You don't try to ignore it
Yeah.
or repress it, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't, and it's because she doesn't cling to her own comfort, right? Like she doesn't cling to her own comfort. Thus, problems are no problem for her. So it goes back again to like she realizes she's not the author of the story. There we go. Stop share. She's not the author of the story, therefore she could find her place in it and not be a victim. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Oops, there we go.
Therefore, the wise man avoids to the end participation in great affairs, and by doing so establishes his greatness. Rash promises are lacking in faith, and many things that appear easy are full of difficulties. Therefore,
Uh,
the wise man considers everything difficult, and so to the end he has no difficulties. I think we can unshare and
oh
chat
yeah,
about this.
I like that. It's rash promises are lacking in faith, and many things that appear easy are full of difficulties. So that's why it's like your senses will fool you. You know, it's like Star Wars, like don't trust your sight, it will fool you. It's the same kind of thing. But if you're looking at everything in the opposite way and you're open to different things,
Mm,
and if you treat every task as difficult, then they're all gonna be easy. Then I guess you could say.
yeah, right. That's the paradox. What about that first part? Therefore, the wise man avoids to the end participation in great affairs, and by doing so establishes his greatness.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's see.
He
Oops.
avoids to the end. I don't know why he wrote to the end, but he avoids participation in great affairs.
Oh, he avoids it to the end, like to the last. He will avoid
Okay.
participation in great affairs,
Okay,
and
I
by so
figured
yeah.
that's what it was, but
But yeah, I guess he didn't have to, right?
it's like
Uh,
he's emphasizing it like he
yes,
really avoids
yeah. He's not.
participation in great affairs. So he's not like, "Oh, I am the XYZ of the XYZ chapter and I've been promoted to XYZ and I'm this, that, and the other." Right? I don't know. But that's what I think of when I think of a great affairs, like people giving you all these certificates, awards, or accolades, or raising you to some pedestal, right? And on some pedestal.
Yeah, or
But
you can even look at him like great affairs, like in the world, like things that are going on, crazy, whatever.
mm, politicians,
Yeah, exactly, stuff like that.
well, then that speaks to the rash promises
There you go.
are lacking in faith and many things that appear easier. Okay. Yeah. So there you go. He doesn't.
And the
He,
politician, right? They'll say how everything. Oh yeah, we'll just fix it so easy, right? But
mhm, mhm.
yeah, that's hilarious.
Wow.
There you go,
Um,
everybody.
yeah, so therefore the wise man considers everything difficult, and so to the end he has no difficulties. Yeah, paradoxical, but that's how the Tao works.
Exactly. And if you're thinking about like considering everything as difficult, it's just that you just consider everything as a task to be done and you don't really give preference to anything. You just realize that this is what you're doing right now. And because what happens is if you're doing something you don't want to be doing, you're thinking about what you want to be doing. Like when you have a job that you hate, you're like, oh man, I wish I was doing this. And that's when you're not in the moment,
Hmm.
right? And you're lost in thought and it starts the whole cycle. So
Or just like even just simple things like, the concept of like cleaning, washing the dishes or cleaning the toilets or whatever, like maybe, and I was preaching to myself here, maybe make those things like um like things that are easy to do, right? For yourself. By not, like you said, not attaching this like negativity in your mind to it. But like, oh, this is just another thing I do. I just do.
Yeah.
This is another thing I do.
Like what?
I just clean the toilet. I just wash the dishes, and that's what you do. And like
Like when
no
I'm
big, it's
cleaning,
just like
cleaning,
anything else.
like when I'm cleaning the kitty litter, I'm like, I'm mining for gold. I found another whatever. I'm like, yeah, we got one. We're gonna clean this whole box. It really is about your mindset when you're doing these with these things.
Yes.
And
Help me, Lord.
like for dishes, for example, I try to wash dishes even like while I'm cooking. I try to get it done
Yeah.
right away. In this way, it doesn't pile
Yeah.
up, and then you leave a little, and then you could just wipe them out. But if you have like a big pan or something you're using,
Yeah.
try to wash that and you get it out of the way because it clogs everything up. You got a big
It
pan in your
does.
sink. It's just it's
Yeah. I know.
just like life.
Yeah. Exactly. So anyway, last two versions and the last piece of it. What do you
We're
think?
almost there, everybody. We're gonna do it. All right, cool. So last two, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the second part of the Stan Rosenthal version of verse 63, the sage achieves greatness by small deeds multiplied. We've talked about this, right? So instead of going for these great acts, we work on the small things that you can handle and do.
Mm-hmm.
And it forms
Your bathroom's dirty,
yeah,
do one little thing at a time, you
yep.
know?
Or wipe it as it gets dirty too is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
if I trim my
That,
mustache, I try to wipe it down right away, instead of
yeah.
letting the hairs linger and then it.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go
No,
ahead.
no worries. Yeah, so it's kind of like what the other ones are saying, just in a different way. Promises easily made are most easily broken. So
Mm,
true.
mm,
And acting with insufficient care causes subsequent trouble. That's so, yeah, I mean,
mm,
it's when you're not focused in the present moment, you're just out
mm-hmm.
there, acting crazy. The sage confronts problems as they arise so they do not trouble him. There you go.
Yeah. Let's see. Promises easily made are most easily Yeah, it's like I try to do this because I don't like when somebody says, "Yeah, yeah, I'll call you," and then they never call. Like that used to really annoy the living crap out of me because I would hold someone to it, right? Now I'm just like, you know what? If they call, they call. If they don't, they don't. Whatever, doesn't not a big deal. But like anyway, promises easily made are most easily broken. If you're just like haphazard with your words and you're just like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'll do it," or whatever, you're not in the present moment. You're just like blubbering, blathering out your mouth, whatever word that is. And you're just like blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Be conscious about what you're saying, you know? Be um what's the word I'm looking for? Intentional, right? If you said, and I try to do this, if I say to somebody, I'm going to do this, or I will be there, or I will call you, or I will XYZ, then I have to immediately either write it down if I know that I'm going to forget or whatever. Like I just
Yeah,
have to do it
yeah, I'm the same
because
way.
otherwise
You're
it's
right.
not going to happen, you
But like
know?
when you really have to think about something and really you're like, I'm sure I want to do this for okay. And then you think about it and you make a commitment in your mind and then you promise it to somebody,
Yeah.
that's when it's a real true promise. Like when Elizabeth promises she's going to make me banana bread, she makes banana bread. And if the bananas are bad, she'll make something else. But it's like she thinks about it and she's like, I really want to do.
Yeah.
So you're right. But then when people are like, oh, I'll call you or whatever, yeah, it's like, okay, like you're going to forget because you just said it so quickly. You didn't invest anything. There's no skin in the game for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and then let's see, acting with insufficient care causes subsequent trouble. Not to put Cody on the spot because he didn't do anything bad or wrong. But the other day we were trying to put dishes away, pull something out, get a dish out or whatever. He was going to make something. I don't know. He like he had his hands full. He was like holding like two other things, and then he's trying to grab something, a glass, and then he's trying to maneuver it out of the way from another glass, and that it falls and it shatters on the countertop. And then it was just like, okay, now we have to clean up glass, on the count in the kitchen counter. Like, this is fun, you know, but I really did my, like, I wasn't mad at him or anything because like these things happen, right?
Yeah,
And in
I
my head,
know
I'm
all
just like,
about breaking things.
this, like, and that doesn't happen very often, right? So I'm just like, okay, is there anything this is trying to tell me? Like, am I being tested? Like, if I'm going to be angry or whatever. And I wasn't. I was just like, well, I guess we're cleaning up glass now.
Exactly, right? Good for you guys. That's good for you. It's a great way to look at it because it already
Yeah.
happened. So all the wondering why. Yeah.
But then Cody recognized, he was like, I was holding too many things, like, because I didn't know what had happened. He's
Oh, I
like, I
see.
was trying to hold this while I maneuvered this around here, and then that little glass fell, whatever. It was just a little, like, a little small glass jar
Well, that's cool that he
fell.
owned it. That's good.
Yeah, he realized, he's like, I'm like, yeah, just pay attention, like, be intentional, be present, like, just everything in time, everything's gonna work out, everything's just fine.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're rushing to do something or
Mm-hmm.
go somewhere, you're rushing, then you blow a red light or whatever, and you get into an accident or you get pulled over, and it just slows everything down. It's
Yeah.
yes, yes, familiar with that. All right.
All right. So, final one, Aleister Crowley. So, thus the wise man accomplishes the greatest tasks without undertaking anything important. Who undertakes who undertakes thoughtlessly is certain to fail in attainment. It's probably easier to say he who undertaketh thoughtlessly is certain to fail in attainment.
Yeah,
He who estimates things easy finds them hard. The wise man considers even easy things hard, so that even hard things are easy to him. And this is similar in some ways to the other verses we were reading. He says, a wise man accomplishes great tasks without undertaking anything important. And I think he says important to mean like it's a great task. Like, in other words, baby steps. So the wise man accomplishes great tasks without undertaking anything like super great, because while he's doing it, he's doing baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. So it doesn't appear to be a great thing, but then when he's done, it is a great task that he's accomplished.
exactly. Booyah.
And here we talk about, again, he's talking about like not doing it with intention or thought. He says, he who undertakes thoughtlessly is certain to fail in attainment. So, thoughtlessly reaching for a glass when and doing it like without thinking and like trying to grab this, something falls, it breaks, it shatters. He failed, you know, not in a bad way, but
Exactly. Well, he learned from it, which is good.
yeah.
That's why it happens. I mean, maybe this is the thing. A small glass like that breaking could prevent a giant disaster in the future. You never know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now he could be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, and it'll apply to something else. Maybe when he's driving, you never know. So, and then the last part, it's kind of like what they said in the other verses, but to reiterate, the
Mm-hmm.
wise man consider even easy things hard, so that even the hard things are easy to him. And really, what that to me is like, he's not having a preference, like where we said before, right? Like we were saying, you just
Mm-hmm.
scoop the kitty litter, right? We're doing this today because
Mm-hmm.
it has to get done, right? Like,
Yeah. And don't put a negative emotion on it, you know? Do like, I don't know where I've heard this, but like, do all things as if you're doing them for God.
yeah,
Like,
probably
live
like
your life
Ram Dass. It
as,
sounds like something he would say, right?
yeah, I don't even know where I might have heard it as a kid, like in the Christian concept, but like, yeah, I could see Ram Dass saying that too. Um, and doesn't Krishna doesn't yeah, the Bhagavad Gita, I think. Something like that, right? Does it say something like that?
Make every action a sacrifice to me, kind of thing.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah.
So like if whoever your guru is or whoever you think of when you think of doing something for God in your bhakti yoga, because that's what bhakti yoga is, it's devotional unity to God, then you can imagine that you're washing dishes and you're talking to Jesus and he's standing across from you on the other side of the counter while you're washing dishes, or that he's standing next to you as you're washing the toilet.
This is God's plate. Yeah, I'm washing God's plate. I'm washing God's toilet. Especially because you're doing the dishes for yourself and your family and stuff like that. So you really are doing it for the sacred and the divine. You're honoring the God within. Like we said earlier with the guests, every guest is God. It's the same thing. You're treating yourself
You
as
are the
God.
guest. You
So
are
you
the
do it
guest
with
of
care.
honor.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a good time for quiet contemplation or meditation or reflection or to
Yeah.
listen to an audiobook or whatever you want to do, some music.
Mhm.
And you don't have to dread it. It's like, this is my time to scoop the poop. Let's do it. All right, everybody. That was another
Riveting.
marvelous, yes,
Yes.
riveting too, episode of the best darn show on the internet, the Oversharon Show. You can go to morelawsandmoreproblems.com, click on the Oversharon tab if you would like to find more stuff about Oversharon, how to donate, and how to find us in audio form and all that stuff, podcasts. It's all right there. But we always say the best way to support us is to hang out here every Thursday in the chat when we premiere or go live. So hang out here on Thursdays. Subscribe, thumbs up, comment. Please leave us comments, especially about that part we on that one part we had a little difficulty with. Go back and comment on that. Well, let us know what you think. Did we nail it? Did we miss something? And we could talk about it on the next episode that we do of the Tao. So yeah, let us know. We'll talk about that.
The next episode.
To the next episode. Smoke weed every day. That's what he said.
That's
So
what I was
yeah.
thinking. Not the smoke weed every day, but just the song.
Yeah. So what do we say to people sharing smoke weed every day?
That once you start oversharing.
That's right. You totally stop being an N, a Karen.
An N after care.
That's right. You're just a person who is in care. And remember, I know it could sound like we're trying to tell you what to do, but we're not trying to tell you what to do or how to live.
Yeah. We're just giving you tips on how to live a little bit more marvelously. Could it be?
That's right. So keep oversharing, everybody. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Shout out to the chat. If I didn't say that earlier, I think I did, but thank you guys so much for sticking all the way to the end. And we will see you next week. Have a great weekend and keep oversharing. Bye, everybody.